I'm still on the phone with you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of LPA Live. We are LP Alliance and Intercaucus Coalition, rebuilding the Libertarian Party and revolutionizing the liberty movement. Yes, Chris did hear me talking to Kyle Davis, who is here with me. We will soon be joined by Lars Mapstead. Kyle, where is Lars? Are you muted? You are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Earth.
Wonderful, wonderful. As we wait for everyone to congregate into our stream, Solidarity streams, everyone, will be being moved to Wednesday. We might also do Tuesday streams, but our consistent stream that is not the business list has also been moved to Wednesday. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Hello, hello.
Hi, Lars.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
So we are live. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
For those who do not know your history with the Libertarian Party, tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the LP and what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think you have to go back to like 1992 when Ross Perot was running for president. And I had already decided that I didn't like the Democrats or the Republicans, that they seemed to, talk one game and then walk a completely different game. And so I don't like hypocrisy. I don't like when people say they're going to do something and then do something totally the opposite or that sort of thing. So I've always kind of been an independent voter, and I registered as a libertarian. I voted for Ron Paul, and I registered as a libertarian, and I thought, I'm a libertarian. I registered as a libertarian. I'm voting as a libertarian. And I didn't really know that there was a party. And no one reached out to me and said, like, you could join this party, you could do this thing. None of that was an option. So I just figured I was doing all the stuff that there was. And when people asked me what I was a libertarian. And I didn't know that there was a party platform or any of that stuff. What it just meant to me was that I wasn't voting for the duopoly, and that was pretty much good enough for me. And my points were essentially, fiscal responsibility and limited government was just always kind of my thing. Is that every interaction I've had with any form of government has always been just overly bureaucratic for no purpose whatsoever other than to just create chaos and misery among anybody that has to deal with them, kind of a thing. And then I ended up voting for Gary Johnson, and he was the first presidential candidate that I ever donated money to. Before that, I had never been a person that donated money. And so then 2020 came around, and Joe Jorgensen and Spike were running, and I was much more interested at this point in this this kind of situation, and I was watching them campaign across the country during COVID, and I thought that was interesting, and I thought to myself, I have a background in social media, in marketing, and in internet, and I thought I could really use my skills to get this same message out to a lot more people, I bet. And that was sort of what kind of led me down the path. And I called in maybe right after the election was over with Joe Jorgensen. I called the national party and I was like, hey, and we were right in the middle of COVID. I was really pissed off at the way the government was handling that. I was pissed off at watching Trump and Cuomo on TV every day doing battle while people were, miserable and suffering and locked down and dying, and they didn't seem to be doing anything about what they were supposed to be doing. So I called up the national and I was like, how do you run for president? What I got to do that? And it was, part of it was just like, I literally Googled, how do you run for president? And I just started going down the path. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should do this seriously, and I had joined the party at that time. I think in maybe 2019, I joined the party. And mostly I joined the party because I said if I joined the party and give them a bunch of money, I could go to the national convention and sit at a table with the fancy people. And I was like, oh, that sounds good.
Makes sense.
I didn't ever end up making that convention. I think it was a hybrid convention. I think some of it was online, and I and opted just to be at home for that. But so that was sort of it. And then for the first year or so, I've run a bunch of companies. I've had companies with 600 employees before, and a lot of successful businesses. But I wasn't a good public speaker. And I knew that was going to be kind of my Achilles heel in running for president, because you kind of have to talk.
Yeah.
So I'm good with this. I'm good in a situation like what we're doing right now, where I can see your faces and I can get the tells and I can see that it's working or whatever.
Right.
But when you're just projecting to a room of people and it's kind of like drone politics, I was a little bit concerned about that. And so that sort of led me down the next paths, which was a lot of Toastmasters. And then I hired Larry Sharp to be a speech coach for me, to help me with my public speaking. Because I feel like out of all the people that I had listened to about, I started listening to a lot of libertarian podcasts because I wanted to know more about philosophy and that sort of thing. And he had a way of explaining libertarian ideas in a way that normal people could understand it, not nerd libertarian speak.
Yeah, Amanda.
Right. I look. There's a time and place for lengthy articles, and then there's a time and place for direct action. So I'm into both.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I when I grew up, I'm a closet nerd. I played Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid, and I'm a avid video gamer. I play a lot of Fortnite and Overwatch still today. And but
have you gotten into Rivals yet?
Yeah, I played a bunch of Marvel Rivals. My son-in-law is like a top 50 Marvel Rivals player, like literally,
Nice.
like on teams. He's crazy. I don't even play with him
Nice.
because it's just like I don't even. It's wild.
From
Kids these
experience, once you
days.
get to the pro level, it's not a whole lot of fun anymore. It's
Yeah,
work.
kids these days. So, but it was funny because I remember going to the Reno convention, the national convention, and I walked in, and I was like, "Oh, this is where all the nerds ended up." Like, and it was funny because I was like, I bet they have some D4 dice here, and I literally shit you not, the guy behind me is like, "Yeah, here you go, bro." Yes. So, and then I think they even solved some. There was some, vote or something that needed to be solved, and I think they rolled a D10 for that.
Nice.
Up on the stage. So anyway, nice. I don't know why I went off in that tangent, but I just thought it was funny.
No,
and I saw I fit right in. To be honest with you, like dealing with party politics and all the rules and all the little stuff going on. I mean, it's the average person does not want to deal with any of that. I brought several regular normal people to the national convention in DC, and they were happy that I brought them, but they said that is not the place that we ever want to be again.
Yeah.
So you had a strategy. I have a comment here from Tyler. It says that your stop 270 strategy was beautifully messaged. I hope that you run again. What was the stop 270 strategy?
Yeah. So, I'm in my businesses, I like to try to solve problems, and I like to try to come up with new marketing ideas and new ways of doing stuff to kind of get attention, right? Like if you come up with something novel, people are like, "Oh, what is that?" And then they'll pay attention to it. And so the idea was that the Libertarian Party hasn't won any electoral votes ever, except for once in 1972. Tony Nathan got a rogue elector to vote for her. And so she's the only libertarian to ever win an electoral vote. And I thought it would be really interesting to win electoral votes on election night, because that would put gold on the map. And that would get people to be like, what is that? I mean, no one's ever seen gold on election night on the map, right? Like, and that would be wild if CNN had to put up something gold. And then I was like, what if it was like we could win a few states? And what if then it sort of kept morphing? And then like, well, what if you don't get 270 electoral votes? What if no one gets 270 electoral votes? What happens? Oh, there's a thing in the Constitution that says that it becomes a contingent election, and it gets kicked to the House of Representatives to decide who's going to be the president of the United States and who's going to be the vice president of the United States. And I thought, wow, what a shit show that would be, right? Yeah. And like, the thing is if you had that happen and on election night there was a couple of those things and no one won, the media would just be talking nonstop about how the libertarians had completely screwed the election. They had screwed it up for both parties, and how dare they, and they're meaningless and worthless, but somehow they completely screwed the entire system, right? So
yeah, for sure.
So the idea is it would give us outsized power, and it would give us a lot of attention. And the whole idea of my campaign, going back to the beginning, was to market libertarian ideas, right? To get the most amount of people Googling what's a libertarian and finding the Libertarian Party like I did, like realizing that there's actually a party and it's not just voting libertarian. There's 700,000 people that are registered as libertarians in America. Okay.
Yep.
There's only like 12,000 dues paying members to the Libertarian Party right now.
I wish that was true. It's down to 7.
Okay, it's down to 7. So, I mean, and that's still dropping. But we can talk about that later, because I have some ideas on how to fix that. But yeah. So, we should be reaching those 700,000 people. Like that. Yes. That should be our goal, is to get all 700,000 of those people at least knowing that we exist, and at least championing us every 4 years when we have a presidential candidate, if not
for sure
for their local people and that sort of thing.
I am a part of the Project Archimedes too.
Okay. Yep.
And in our CRM, we have more than 1 million people who have at some point or another given their information to the Libertarian Party to hear from the Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
And I think that we've got to do some micro targeting for them. Got to hit them with all the things to get them active and rolling again and talking to their friends. One of the reasons I put it on the agenda in the email I sent to you and let Amanda know is that I want to hear from people who have had to raise money before. I want to hear how we should be fixing this. And I think that you'd be a great person to talk to about it. And so we thought that for a positivity stream, after our last two have been soap operas, it would be great to sit down and talk about a positive thing for the party.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of ideas and thought processes that I got from running and after kind of dissecting it afterwards and figuring out like the things that we could do. That targeting, I've talked to the party leadership, the current party leadership about that exact thing. It's sort of my specialty wheelhouse. I had something like 20 million paid subscribers that were paying me every month to be part of my websites. And so I kind of gave them that idea that we need to be more of like a subscription model than a $25 a year model. We need to be getting $10 a month or $20 a month out of as many people as we can. And part of that is that the Libertarian Party kind of a little bit relies too much on whale donors, and whale donors get burnt out, right? Whale donors, if they don't see the results of what they're trying to get, they'll just be like, peace out. I'm not giving you another 100,000, or I'm not giving you another 200, whatever. And so you can't rely on that to keep the party going. What you need to do is you need to get, 200,000 people giving you $20 a month, and then you're a real political party. Then you're something, right? And then you can really like affect change and that sort of thing. And it's interesting. I don't know if you guys have been getting this, but I've been getting a lot of text spam lately, where like you'll sign up for something and you start getting these texts and 4 or 5 of them in a row. Yeah. Well, that's all AI now. So no one actually does anything, right? They literally and it's all like perfectly tailored and timed so that they know that like after 3 days this person is the most ripe to be targeted again and has this % chance of acting. So we should have that whole million CRM database and we should be hammering it. And like if it pisses some of them off, that's fine, because we need to get the 200,000 people that are willing to give $20 a month, and then we'll have
absolutely.
The party can't do anything until it's getting $10 million a year. That's like, in my opinion, and that's the bare minimum, right? That's the bare minimum, because that's what's needed to keep ballot access going. That's what's needed to help candidates, and even that's
what's needed to grow.
Yeah, it's
that's what we've got to put forward.
That's right. So I'm all in favor of any of those kind of things. What I would say is one of the ideas that I have, and this is just me thinking out loud. Don't shoot.
We love it. Yeah, I'm too far away for that. Touch you in person. Kyle knows.
Yeah, Chase, don't wish that on me, buddy.
Well, there's currently an open spot on the LNC. So
I would like that's absolutely not happening.
You don't want to be a secretary?
No. Oh God, no. So the thing is, I wasn't really pleased at all with the way that the presidential primary for the Libertarian Party, the way that we had to debate 35 different times in 35 different states and spend insane amounts of money traveling to each state to basically give the same pitch that we gave somewhere else. I was not pleased with basically having to pay to play in a lot of states in order to be on the debate stage. I wasn't doing this for glamour or ego or like any of that stuff. Like, I was trying to do it because I honestly believed I could make a difference, right? And so I got in here, and the party apparatus was sometimes hostile to me, and sometimes like picked my pocket to be of service to I've never been in an organization that like bent me over like that, which did not leave a good taste in my mouth at all.
It
Right?
I was on Chase's team, so I'm familiar with what it looks like when the party wants to bend somebody over.
So one of the ideas that I have is I also don't like the fact that you basically have to have money in order to be a person who can vote for the presidential candidate.
Right.
I grew up really poor. I grew up literally with an outhouse, no electricity, and whenever I see financial gatekeeping, that really pisses me off. Right? Whenever I see
Both of us are with you.
Yeah.
Whenever I see like, bro, I can't afford the $100 to get there or whatever, right? So my vote doesn't count. What do you mean? It's kind of American principle that we all have an equal opportunity. And I know Libertarian Party's, its own corporation and all that kind of stuff. But I still feel like if you're a libertarian, if you're a dues paying libertarian, you should have the right to help choose your presidential candidate. That's just my fundamental idea of that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that getting to choose your electors at your affiliate counts for that. That's been one of the arguments is like, oh, well, you can show up to your state one. And it's like in Georgia, our state convention was 6 hours for me last year, and I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah. And that whole thing is that's all. And we're in 2025 now. We all use computers every day, all day long. There are a number of electronic voting systems that are totally can work. And I point to the financial. I don't know. If you own stocks, you get all the time voting for boards of directors on stocks. And you don't go to the company and sit in a room and vote. No, they have organizations that basically run the elections for those boards. And this is financially regulated stuff. This is like the most heavily regulated, has to be the most transparent and most on point stuff that you could do in America. And if they can do it there, we certainly can do it for our type of organization, right? And one of the ways that I think that we can raise a pile of money and get those $20 reoccurring revenues is that in order to, if you are a paying member of the Libertarian Party, then you get to vote for who's going to be the presidential candidate. And then you go out to those 700,000 registered libertarians and would you like to have an opportunity to vote for the person of your choice? Send us $20. And now you are able to vote for the candidate. The other thing is that to go to Washington, D.C., with all the people that we had, all the airplane tickets and all the bus tickets and the hotel rooms and all the food and all that kind of stuff, the Libertarian Party people, those 2,000 delegates or 18, whatever amount there was, those people spent almost $2 million. $2 million, which is twice the budget of the Libertarian Party to go vote at the convention on the candidate. And we didn't even finish the business because we never got around to that. So it's just like a giant waste of time and energy, in my opinion. And if we're going to do all that, then one of the things, and this kind of leads into another issue, is that when they were doing the voting, they were literally walking around and hand counting people. And the votes just took for freaking ever, right? It was just ages. And I'm like, man, if we just fix this voting thing, we would have time to get to the bylaws and to get to the platform and get to all the other business that the party has that we spent $2 million to get here. Instead, we're literally counting people one at a time by hand, and then people are calling for roll call vote and dilatory and all the other shenanigans that goes on at the convention. It just seemed like just poorly. I mean, if it was a business, it would be out of business. I would never run my business like that. It would I would fire everybody. I'd be like, you guys will suck, and we need new people. So anyway, I don't know. That's just my rant on that. But I think that we could get a lot of money for the party and do away with all the BS that we had by simply turning it into a system where everybody who is a paid member gets to vote. And look, I understand people are like, well, you could really game that system because you could give 1,000 people $20 in order to be a member or whatever. But maybe it's more. Maybe it's $20 a month or whatever it is, right? But the thing is who cares if somebody tried to like skew the system and bought 10,000 votes? They just put $200,000 into the coffers of the Libertarian Party.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Go ahead, bro. Screw us. Money. I'm like, I dare you.
Fair.
And if you get enough, if you get 500,000, then it starts becoming really expensive to overcome the mass of actual libertarians who are voting. And so it becomes a lot harder. And then you can't really, then like, if you try to take it over or you try to like screw the vote, then you're just giving the party like $15 million or something like that, which, then we could use for every down ballot thing. Right.
Right.
Like, I mean, like it honestly,
or save it for the next election.
Exactly. So I think bottom line, and I think we saw this in the last election is, and I said it on stage at the national convention, that money was going to be super important and that there wasn't any money, and that was going to kind of be one of the most important pieces. And I'm going to say it again. Money is kind of the most important thing, guys. If you want to have a political party that's successful, to play in the real arena of politics, you need at least $10 million a year budget, period. And that's like the bare minimum, in my opinion.
I think Free's got a decent point here with the fact that you could buy voting shares, which might be a way to do. So Amanda and I have talked about, we talked about on the stream too, the idea that people who put their time and effort into the party should be rewarded just as equally as someone who puts actual currency in.
Like
that we should reward. Right, we should reward all kinds of money. And so if you have something like voting shares, where someone is buying and selling their ability to vote, you might be able to get people in and make people more excited about buying those and everything else. But that's an interesting system and an interesting idea. I'd have to think more about it, but I think it's neat, Free.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just go back to one last thought on all that, was that in 2020 at the hybrid convention, there was electronic voting. And TJ Ferreira created the porcupine voting system at that time. And it was really kind of put together in sort of haste because they needed a solution, and he was able to get it going enough to make it work, right? But since then, we've had 5 years essentially, and he has been basically working on that. And then he got an entire team of people that were kind of from every walk of the party to work on it.
TJ is good folks.
Programmers from all sorts of people across the libertarian spectrum looked at it. It's open source. It's ready to go. It could be, unfortunately, it has to go through the bylaws thing in order to be used. Or if the people at the convention decided to just like waive it, they could say, we want to use that or whatever. But, you need 7/8 or whatever to get that done.
Yeah.
But I would highly recommend somebody, champion that at some point, because it's ready to go. I'm not going to champion it because I realized it's basically political, bash your head against the wall and try to give somebody a solution and then have them yell at you for trying to give them a solution.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really want to sign up.
We've played that game. Yeah.
I mean,
Amanda and I are both on bylaws.
Why would you want to sign up? They're like, oh, you have to get with the bylaw committee and you have to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, that sounds like pain. I mean, I got better things to do with my life than do that. But if somebody out there listening here wants to champion that, get in touch with me or TJ, and I'd love to have somebody champion that. And...
You're currently talking to 17% of the bylaws committee, so that's a good way to start.
Okay, sweet. I like that.
We're on bylaws because of the fact that we're really passionate about it. We think that the party has some fundamental issues in the actual structure, in the actual, if you look at our board, you look at the way national structured with everything, it's very pseudo pyramidal. It's an attempt to be hierarchical, but fails in a lot of ways, where the board is both too weak on lots of things and overly strong on lots of things. And the chair has the same problem. And so we're really trying to push this idea that everything should be a little more hub and spoke, where messaging, etc. And I'm explaining Amanda's portrayal of this idea.
I'm just grading you on this right now.
Yeah.
So go for it. I'll judge you later.
It's fine. She'll call and yell at me if I get it wrong. But National should really be putting forward messaging and everything, and then be a way to send the data and what's working back and forth to other states. And so they should be setting the lines on what we're telling people and what we're pushing and what we're saying, and not so much the exact methodologies in the state. And so those are things that we're kind of working on bylaws wise. And
that
makes
was
sense.
Interesting. Just a sidebar on that a little bit is that after going to 35 states and trying to contact 50 state chairs, and I had a big team of people, right? Like and they knew everybody. Like the people that I had on my team knew everybody in the party that was, that had been around for any sort of time, right?
Sure.
And it was almost impossible to find like half the state chairs' contact information.
Yeah.
You couldn't get it from National. They didn't have it. They're like, who's this guy? I don't know. You don't know who your state chair is? You don't know how to get a hold of them? Well, we send it out to the CRM email thing, and they're like, yeah, but they're not getting that. Well, why not? Well, because they're on a different CRM, dumbass.
Yeah.
So, and I sent out my voters' bill of rights to all 50 states, and so we tried to get mailing addresses, and I think I got 14 of them back, and we really tried to like get them out there, right? And then and it was just it was really interesting going around and thinking that the Libertarian Party was super organized, and there was a lot of like back and forth between National and the states and coordination, and none of that. I mean, I was really disappointed in that. The infrastructure is just really not there, and so I would like to see a lot more of exactly what you just said, which is more coordination with the states. What's going on in your state? Like maybe they're doing it now, but I would think that a once a month Zoom call with all the states, and this is what we're doing, and then like, hey Wyoming, hey Nebraska, hey whatever, why weren't you there, or great job showing up, or whatever, right? So I think that would be, because you feel, if you're in a group like that, you also feel like you're doing something. You feel like you're part of a movement. If you're just out there wagging in the wind, and some of these states have like 12 people showed up at their state convention, right? It's not like it's like some huge, I go to local meetings in my town that have more people in them than the convention of state, so we need to do a lot more recruiting and getting people so that we have robust states and all that kind of stuff too, because it's hard if you only have 10 people. It's hard to like get any activist kind of action going on with only it's hard, it's challenging. So we need
activism is a big way to get visibility, right? And when we're not running candidates, that will then bring attention to the candidates that we run when we do. So member recruitment is critical, and the LP has been losing members more than we've been getting them. What, in your opinion, what are the where are we falling short in terms of recruitment? What are the demographics we need to be focusing on? What are some strategies for recruitment? Yeah,
I think honestly the easiest, and I told the LNC this, that the easiest low-hanging fruit is those 700,000 registered libertarians, because they have already made a commitment to go to their Secretary of State and put their name on the thing. So they've taken an action, which is like way more than, for a lot of people, that action is a lot, right? For a lot of people, like saying I'm now a registered libertarian is so they have a vested interest. They already have buy-in. So we need to be hitting those 700,000 people like until we've exhausted that. And you could, and that could take a while. Like you could probably do a 2-year campaign just on that, right? Like we should get emails and phone numbers of all those people. All those people should be targets of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram ads talking about Libertarian Party. When we know their state that they live in, any candidates that were running in those states there should be ads targeted to those people so they see out in the wild that like we're doing stuff. And then it's like, and then when you say, hey, can you give us $20 to help Bob in Nebraska run? Then they're like, yeah, I saw Bob's ad. I'll totally give $20 to get some more ads running, right? Or whatever. And so that's how you get people to buy in. So we just need to really target that list. And like you said, you have 1 million names in CRM. That's amazing. And I mean, I'm sure some of it's stale because data goes, south pretty quickly, but still, we should be culling that as quickly as possible and really diving into that. I think it's one of the things is that I realize people get excited for candidates, right? Like they don't necessarily get excited for the party, but if you get a good candidate, people will be like, oh, I really support Mike from Texas because he's really based and he's got good messaging and I support him. And that's where they'll give money to. They'll give money to Mike, right? But we're not running nearly enough candidates. Like we should be running candidates all over the place. But without support, why would anybody want to run? When you show up at the party and not only are they not welcoming, but they berate you and tell you what a lousy piece of crap you are and then ask you to give them money. It doesn't like give me warm fuzzies to get to, bring in more candidates. Who wants to be a candidate for that? And if there's no like, Chase found this out, I found this out is like, I was naive in the sense that I thought if I ran as a libertarian, if I won the nomination, I would get like this huge, like, machine behind me that I would get to put to work, right? And then that would really help me like get the message out more, right? But
and then suddenly you found out you had more of the outhouse behind you than a machine.
100%. And not only that, but it's just like, I would have been almost better off running as an independent if I had ballot access. Like the Libertarian Party was actually a hindrance. Right? I would have got the same amount of message out as I did. The Libertarian Party did not help me get my message out. The only thing I would say that they did help me get was they allowed me to speak at conventions, which talked to the libertarians who were already sold on voting for the Libertarians mostly, unless they voted for Trump. RFK. But that was one thing. And then the other thing, I guess, we got on C-SPAN at the convention, right? But other than that, the Libertarian Party didn't help me in my candidacy. It didn't help Chase in his candidacy. It didn't help any of the candidates from us, right? And it's like, what the hell is that? So basically, they have ballot access, and they use that to hold the candidates hostage.
Well, I was going to say, and we'll get to Linda's question because I think it's a good one. But I think you're articulating a great problem, which is that even if we wanted to help a candidate, right, we don't have a whole lot of money to do that. And so that is where member and donor recruitment is critical. I think a lot of people, especially as libertarians, we're individualists, so we don't like elevating one person over another. If I love a candidate, that's great. If I hate a candidate, that really, dampens my support for the party. With something like a cause, then that is a way to get people invested in something that the party believes in, the party platform. And then you're able to go out, you can recruit members, you recruit donors. And a lot of times, I think one thing that libertarians have kind of been edging into, and I think we could make it a cornerstone strategy, is these single issue coalitions or these multi-issue coalitions where we already have people who are turning out. Then we build relationships with them. We build relationships with donors. We A, get that attention. We B, get the member recruitment. C, get the donor recruitment. And then have that ability to put money behind candidates. It's sort of a multi-tier strategy, but again, it takes a kind of coordination that I think right now National is having difficulty with. So yeah, it's a clear problem, but requires, I think, multiple strategies. We have Linda's question up on the screen. What are your thoughts on former VP Mike Termott switching to the Republican Party?
Yeah.
And I kind of want to expand that one a little bit because like Mike is not going by himself, right? He's doing this push with David Moskrip and lots of people across the group. So what do you think of that overall, rather than just focusing on Mike, if I can?
Yeah. So I maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago or something, I went and had a small meeting with Thomas Massey in San Francisco. And we were discussing, all kinds, mostly just internal workings of the House of Representatives and how completely what a sham it is, right? And one of the things he said to me was, I can't remember who, maybe it was Ed Clark. I don't know. He had a debate.
Rest in peace, Ed.
Huh?
Rest in peace, Ed.
Yeah. He had a debate. It might have been Ed Clark, might have been somebody else. He had a debate where they debate, and I want to go look this up now that I'm remembering again. They had a debate on whether it was better to run as a libertarian in the Libertarian Party or to run as a libertarian inside the Republican Party, and which one could affect more change, right? So I want to see that debate. I think that for Mike, he was a Republican before. So I think it's easy for people to swap back and forth between whatever party they came from. I have never identified as a Democrat or a Republican. They asked me if I wanted to join the jump to the Republican Party, and I said that just wasn't for me. It's like because of the hypocrisy, I would have to bite my own principles, because I know that they would say stuff and I would then be like, cool, they're saying stuff, and then they would add $5 trillion to the debt, and I'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you doing the stuff that we said you were gonna? I hate you people. So that's why. Now, am I mad at Mike for jumping ship to the Republican Party? If he feels like that's the avenue that he can affect the most change, then go Mike, go. Like, the thing is like, all the people that I campaigned with, I have to say that I wanted to have an antagonistic relationship with them, but we literally were like sleeping on the plane together. We were riding in vans together. We debated 35 times together. We had coffee and dinner together. I mean, I knew those guys better than I knew most people on the teams that I worked with in my companies. Like, they were like the inner circle, right? So what I can say is that and you guys can all have your own opinion about this, but Mike Termott, Chase Oliver, myself, even Josh Smith, and all these guys had authentic personalities underneath of the facade that comes with running a presidential campaign. Like, even I had to put on a certain persona that I wasn't necessarily wanted to put on, but it just it's kind of forced on you by the way that the system works, kind of a thing. And so I would say that all of them could have been good messengers for the Libertarian Party. And so I'm fine with Mike going to the Republicans, and if he wants to come back to the Libertarian Party, I'd be fine with that too.
Alex, yeah, go for it. Alex's question.
Alex from Malone's got a pretty good question here.
Okay.
What about showing up to larger events like, say, a region conference? My state had been the host state, and putting issues aside, we were able to get coalition groups to show and present to libertarians in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I think any outreach and getting our message out there and getting people to understand what we're doing is good. I think the key point, though, is that we have to stick to our principled message if we're going to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we invited Donald Trump to our national convention, right? We invited RFK and Vivek to our national convention. And I wanted to see us have a much bigger stage to present our it's like the airing of the grievances.
Yeah, yeah.
And basically what I feared was going to happen is exactly what happened in the whole Donald Trump thing, and that is that he was going to use us as a soundbite and as a way of showing that the libertarians supported Donald Trump. I was not a fan of any of that stuff. They bent me over and made me pay to be on stage and have a debate, but invited Donald. What the hell? I mean, that whole thing was just wild. But it was there wasn't anything I could do about it. I could walk out and discuss, I guess, but I had already burned $1 million to the ground and spent a year of my life getting there. So I figured I should finish up with what I was doing, right? But
yeah, for sure.
Is we have to stay principled if we're going to be inviting those kind of coalitions in. We can't, bend our principles in order to like meet them somewhere halfway in between. Like, well, $5 trillion worth of debt is really bad, but if we can get it to 2 trillion, I'm totally okay with just 2 trillion or whatever. Or my project getting involved is fine. That's how we end up with 5 trillion in debt debt, right? Is everybody their pet project, and no, that one's good, that one's good, that one's gonna just keep adding on the pork until we're buried in debt for the rest of our lives.
Well, and there was an opportunity too to so Donald Trump was invited to the convention. Disagreement on that. There was just not follow through with that strategically, right? Because you could have used that as an opportunity to have, and you would have had to have gotten the right people, but have a legitimate, non hugely vitriolic and unprofessional, although Donald Trump would not have liked this kind of addressing of grievances, right? Issues with the Republican Party, would have done it with the Democratic Party if Harris had showed up, and we fumbled the ball on that.
Well, we weren't. That was never the intent.
Right. Well,
the intent was never to allow us to have any say in anything, right?
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And this is what we talk about too, and we'll in LP Alliance we work on finding existing movements and trying to get libertarian turnout there. But again, not to just say, hey, we support whatever you're saying whole cloth, right? But to actually direct the tenor of the movement. So it's a lot more work than just, go to a convention and make friends and be buddy. You have to retain your principles, as you said.
Yeah. And so, I guess, one of the things that kind of came out of all this was that I realized changing inside the Libertarian Party is really challenging. Like when I was looking at doing the electronic voting, when I was looking at maybe changing the way that we vote for a presidential candidate, I realized that it was like herding cats, and that I would get because I talked to people about this, and then they just start yelling at me, like, for whatever reason, they decided that what I said wasn't going to work, or they didn't like it, or whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to spend my time trying to convince you of something that I think will be beneficial to everybody. Like, if you're just going to yell at me about it, I'll go do something else. So what I did to go do something else is I realized that one of the things that I realized in the campaign is about ballot access, right? And like that to me, that's the number one thing that the Libertarian Party has to offer that the Green Party doesn't, or running as an independent doesn't, or whatever. That is like the real asset of the Libertarian Party, is ballot access, right? And so what I realize is every election cycle, we go out and we spend a crap ton of money and effort getting people to go out and get signatures and pay for signatures, and we spend whatever we spend, $500,000, $1 million, whatever, and we do that, and then the money's gone. It's like it's just burned to the ground for nothing. It just goes into a vapor. It's a useless waste of money, right? And so, what if we change the ballot access laws in states, and we made it so that they were more equal and more fair and less costly, so that we had instead of paying this money every cycle, we spend the money fixing the ballot laws, and then we get a dividend every year, because we don't have to do that anymore, right? And I realized we spend all this money trying to get to the starting line So the duopoly drains us even of the limited resources we have, just so we can get on the ballot, which is insane, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, now you guys are finally here, but man, you guys are tired because you've been running a marathon. We're ready to party now.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, you guys are ready to go to bed because you've already spent all your stuff, like
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. So I started working with an organization called More Voter Choice, which it was a litigation and lobbying organization, primarily for Kennedy campaign, but then branched out and was working for Jill Stein and did some libertarian stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they were primarily hiring Oliver Hall, who is the lawyer, basically the premier ballot access lawyer in the country, and also happens to be the LNC's lawyer as well. So it's a kind of an incestuous little world. But anyway, they were able to get 10 pieces of litigation during this last cycle through to change ballot laws, right? And then I had the work that I did up in Maine, and Chase was up there, and Bill Redpath and Richard Winger and a number of other people. And so we were able to do that. And then what I realized was there's other states that could be changed, and maybe relatively easily, right? And so I started focusing on that. I started a nonprofit called Voting Rights Foundation, which is basically an organization to create a free market in American politics, because I believe that I'm a unabashed capitalist, and I believe that competition breeds excellence. Right? Competition is what makes a market function properly, and that's what brings up the standard of living or the standard of our elections. And so my whole goal now is just to basically create a free market in American politics. And so I'm working with all three of those things, and I'm now going around the country and doing lobbying and doing litigation and doing education to try to change people's minds, and we're having some success. So I think that by the time that the next presidential campaign comes around, I will have changed some laws in some states for the better that will affect the libertarians, but will also affect independents and the Green Party and everybody else. We created 2 pieces, and I'll just finish this piece of the conversation with this.
Sure.
We created a ballot access index with the help of Richard Winger and a couple of white papers out of I don't know, one of the big universities did a white paper on ballot access, basically. So we took all these pieces and we graded all the states 1 through 50 on how good their ballot access is, and that is like how many signatures you need, what's the requirements, do you need special pieces of paper, do you need them to be notarized, do you have to, like in the time period that all the rules, right? And then we rank these things 1 through 50, and so now we have a list of the best states to the worst states. And then I said, guys, why don't we, what would the best state look like if we could like wave a magic wand and say what the model ballot access should look like across the whole country, right? And so then we created a document for model ballot access, which says that, it has like 10 rules or whatever of different things that we would like to see happen. And then we have written legislation based on our knowledge of each state. So we've written 50 pieces of legislation that's ready to go in every state to change the ballot access laws to get closer to the thing that we want. We went to the Secretary of State convention in Washington, D.C., Larry Sharp and myself and Harrison, and we went there and we talked to the Secretaries of States, and I think we talked to 25 or so of them. And what was super interesting was there was the people who were Fs, Illinois as an example. When we said, hey, this is what we're trying to do, the guy said, not to be a jerk or anything, but we like it to be rigged like this. It's worked great. The Republicans are always winning, or whatever. I can't remember if it was Democrats or Republicans. They're always winning, and that's how we like it. And we're not ever going to change anything, right? And I learned something else, that there are secretaries of state who got elected and see voting as a civic duty. And they're very much in favor of making sure that their citizens and their candidates have a clear path to having their vote counted and vote matter, right? And then there's people who are in there for political gain only, and they're tied to a party, and they literally want to rig the system, and they don't care, right? And so there's these two different things. So what was the super interesting piece was the states that were a C grade, that were like in the middle, they all came to us and said, how do we improve? Because we thought we were A's. And we didn't realize we're actually bad. So they don't look at other states. They just look at what their state is doing and say, that's pretty good, right? But they don't look at like California, who you need 200,000 signatures to get on the ballot for president in one cycle. I mean, that's insane. You need like literally $10 million just to get on the ballot in California. Like, what is that? Like, I mean, and recently there was a state, I won't name the state, but there was recently a state that was trying to pass a law that was going to make it so that only Republicans could run.
Yeah.
If you think about it, states are allowed to make their own rules, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds insane, but that's actually a rule that they could, put in place. And maybe somebody would sue them and say, like, you can't do that. But literally, that would be a law that would be on the books. Is like, you can only vote for this one party because all other parties are bad. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Grumblings Media wants to know, and this is a question that Kyle and I were talking about before the stream. Elon Musk is obviously not very happy right now with the Trump administration, and is talking about setting up a minor party of his own.
The America Party.
Right. So do you see partnering with Musk to help change some of those ballot access laws now that he's been betrayed, in quotes, by Trump? Or is that sort of a let's not touch that money?
Oh, no, look, clearly he has vast resources. And if he gave us a tiny fraction of what he gave to Donald Trump, it would go a long way to helping the party. I don't think he has any idea about the way the system is rigged. I don't think he has any idea about ballot access, about what it takes to put a party together. I want him to do it. I want him to try to start another party because I want him to see how completely corrupt and broken and rigged the game is, right? And then when he sees that, I think that's gonna then I think he would be willing to get behind some action for like fixing that stuff, maybe. But I don't know. It's like he's got his hands full. He's doing a few things. That guy.
Someone should put out a video actually, just like showing the process of trying to get on the ballot in various states and trying to get on the debate stage. That would be like an amazing, national campaign stunt for someone just to sort of film what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what Joe's talking about, and I would like him to be sent to good luck now. Thank you. Joe is no longer with us, and frankly, he never was. We will be deleting all of his comments and social media profiles and photos.
He was never on this boat.
No, who's Joe?
Actually, you bring not that up, but the the primary system. I want to talk just a second about that too, because we saw something in this election cycle that ripped the curtain back on the Wizard of Oz that is our primary system, right? I feel like the candidates that were running in the LP were a lot like the characters in the Wizard of Oz, right? Like one didn't have the heart and the brains and the all that kind of stuff. So they literally said in the Democrats were running, I can't remember if it was Maine or New Hampshire or one of those New England states, Marianne M. Williamson and Dean Phillips and Unger and the people who were running as Democrats were all excited because Biden's team didn't get him on the ballot in one of those states, right, in the primary, right? And I guess they just didn't file the paperwork. Who knows, right? But they were all excited because they're like, we're going to win these delegates. This is awesome. Now we're going to have, at least when we get to the convention, we're going to have a seat at the table because they're going to have to trade some chips to us for these delegates that we're going to win. And the Democrat National Convention came out and literally said in the press, the primary doesn't matter. Your votes are pointless. We choose who the candidate's going to be, and we choose Joe Biden. Well, why the fuck does anybody show up to vote if your vote doesn't matter? If your vote
This is an adult show. You're totally okay saying fuck.
What a joke! Come on. And
Absolutely.
it was the same thing with Trump, right? They were gonna remove him off the ballot in Maine and Colorado because the Secretary of State deemed that he shouldn't be there or some. Give me a break, right? So we need to end the charade of the primary system, and the taxpayer needs to stop funding that crap because it's pointless. And the RNC and DNC are private corporations. Okay, they're literally private corporations, NGO corporations. Why am I, as a taxpayer, paying for that? That's like Apple calling me up and saying, Lars, we need you to pay for our internal board of director election right now because we want it and we've got a gun and we're going to make you do it. Like that, it's just a sham, right? So what I like to see, and this is just me pie in the sky, Lars dreaming about what a better world would look like in politics for America. I would like to see an open primary where there is very, very minimal rules to get on the ballot. So one of the rules might be that when you raise $5,000 currently as a presidential candidate, the FEC contacts you, which I learned the hard way.
Oh boy.
And so, but it turns out you can look down the list of all the candidates who have raised money and how much they've raised. And there's only like 50, 75, maybe, out of like 1,500 or 2,000 people that, run for president. So, okay, 75 people. Maybe you make that number 10. You have to raise $10,000. I don't know. Whatever the number is, that's the only requirement for being on the ballot, on the primary ballot for president of the United States. And people are like, but Lars, we can't have 100 candidates on the ballot. People are too stupid to be able to find their candidate, and it'll distract them, and they'll be lost. Well, let me tell you, people, we had a governor election in California, a recall election, and 500 people ran for that governorship, and all those people were on the ballot. And somehow, magically, the citizens of California were smart enough to look through all 500 of those and find the candidate of their choice and select them. So what's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so don't tell me this is a hindrance or a bother or whatever. We could easily have 100 people on the line for president, and then take the top 10 vote getters, and those top 10 are automatically in a debate that's hosted by a nonpartisan organization, and the American people get to hear those 10 people. And then they get to decide. And you know what? The likely outcome is they'd still decide between the two major parties. They'd still decide between those two candidates because that's where all the money is and that's where all the power is. But the American people would hear 8 other ideas. And those 8 other ideas would move the Overton window for the 2 existing candidates and push them to what would be more representative of the actual population of America and what they actually want. And I think I would love to see that. I would love Elon Musk, if you're listening, $20 million would go a long way to putting that into action, brother.
Absolutely. It's in a similar vein. I mean, you were at the Watch Party Chase event.
Yep.
That's where we met in person the first time.
Yep.
Like the news kept interviewing people who were unaware that Joe Biden wasn't on the ticket. And so like if they can't make it to 2 candidates, it doesn't matter how many are on the ticket. They're already lost.
Yeah.
And so you can't use those people that can't count past 1 as your reasoning for why there can't be other candidates on the ticket. It's absurd.
Yeah.
We've gotten a few questions about RCV, and I want to throw up something that people have been saying the past couple of weeks, which is that RCV is how we got a socialist in New York, or are going to get a socialist in New York. So you are a fan, correct, of RCV?
So I am a fan of an alternative method to what we have currently, and whether that's approval voting or star voting or RCV, or I would like to see all these different things tried and see what works, right? And see what works, because what we have now is not working. So I'm lesser of two evils. I'm for anything that isn't what we have right now, because what we have right now sucks.
Right.
First past the post is like the worst of all worlds.
The worst. It's just so bad. And you know, I'm going to be traveling to a state here shortly and working on ending gerrymandering in that state, and working on basically getting multi-member districts imposed, because I think like for president, obviously some alternative voting method is a good thing, but also like if we could vote for more than one congressman at a time, if we could vote for 5 or 6, like we have 50 something in California, 54. If I could vote for 5 in a block, and like maybe I like you know, I know I don't like any Republicans or Democrats. If maybe there's somebody that shows up and
solidarity
shows up, and you know, I've been voting literally all my life. In every election, I've showed up and dutifully, you know, cast my vote. And I have never voted for a congressperson or a senator that has won. So I have never felt represented in America. When people are like, "We have a representative democracy," I'm like, "No, we don't."
No.
No.
Completely agree.
Nope.
So, Alex has a pretty good question here. And then I had a thing that I was interested in talking about for a bit with your knowledge of LPA. So Alex asks how he should respond to someone who claims to support RCV, but says only vote Dem. That person claims to be the biggest helper for libertarians.
Claims to support RCV, but says they only vote Dems. Well, I mean, if they're on a RCV ticket, are they only going to vote for the Democrat? I mean, even if you only vote Dems, the thing is maybe there's 4 Dem. Like in California, if you had RCV,
they'd be mostly Democrats.
You're gonna have 5 Democrats. Okay, cool. But you know what? RCV would bring out the Democrat that was most favored by the most people. Like, so you're still going to get a Democrat, but it's not going to be the crazy psycho that's on one side or the other. It's going to be somebody that's like more moderate and like appeals to the most people. So I think that's good. I think that this, you know, part of the reason I started the nonprofit that I started was because there's this awful statistic that 1 in 5 Americans currently believes that violence is the answer to our political problems. That's a recent study. 1 in 5 Americans believe violence is the answer. We're screwed, right? This is why we had January 6th, and this is why we had BLM, is because people are not feeling like they're being heard. They don't feel like their vote's being counted. They don't feel like they have any way of being represented. When you have all that stuff, it starts to make sense that violence might be the answer. Like if you have no other way out, right? And as a libertarian, you know, we have the NAP, and that is, you know, against what we believe, right? Is that we don't believe in political violence to gain what we're trying to do. And so that's one of the goals that I'm trying to do with this, is to basically stop this division that we have in America. And I think RCV might help with some of that, because it allows for more centrist voices to come out. And even if those voices don't win, it shifts the Overton window on the ones who do, and they have to take into account, they're like, oh, people actually care about this, and I might lose votes if I don't, like, you know, get more to the center.
Right. Sam Bowler, the Alabama chair, is asking if you're still interested in making an act gold, as it were.
Yeah. So, that was one of the things we talked about, and Sam actually had presented that to the LNC a couple of years before. I talked recently to some people who are working on that, some software developers. I decided that I didn't want to get involved in it because it's a project that basically would consume all of my time. And because I'm so overloaded and overwhelmed right now with all the things that I'm doing, I just didn't feel like I could really put all my effort into that. So the Voting Rights Foundation, I'm pretty much just like full-time on that. That's what I'm funding with my, you know, finances and resources. And then I I got back heavily into venture capital, so I'm doing a lot of venture capital stuff all over the country and traveling a lot for investments, and I'm deep into AI right now, and so that's kind of where I'm really spending my time and attention. I think that we need that, but honestly, it's almost like the go gold answer to act blue and win red. If we get the 700,000 people to give us $20 a month, we would that would solve the same problem, and I think could be done maybe a little bit easier. But a fundraising tool like that is a good idea, and there are people who are working on that, and I know they need funding. So if you want to know who they are, I'll let you know.
There.
And the thing that I wanted to ask about is if you were familiar, like, with our work. If you're familiar with LP Alliance until outside of the show tonight, et cetera, and what we've been doing.
Yeah. So no. But well, I know of you, and the reason I know of you is because you were streaming the LNC meetings. And I was interested in watching the LNC meetings, and you were the only resource that I could find to actually listen to said meetings. So thank you for that, because why our LNC wasn't making that available for everybody, I don't know. It's like a thing. Like I tried.
There's a long story there.
Like, you're not worthy, Lars. You're not worthy.
The
gatekeepers of the meeting say Lars Mapstead is not worthy to listen to the party that he gave freaking hundreds of thousands of dollars to. He's not
plebs don't need to know. Yeah. What's going on.
So we Amanda does the pitch every time better, but we're an intercaucus coalition looking to fix the Libertarian Party. We
a noble goal.
Yeah.
We try.
We know.
Noble and thankless.
Saying as you're psycho.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Pretty much.
Absolutely true.
We're just a group of people who at the same time just kind of realized that we were mad as hell and not going to take it anymore.
Love it.
And came together spontaneously through spontaneous order. And yeah, we're in a very unique and I think special position because we are not the Libertarian Party. We're not an official LP organization, right? Which means that technically, like, we don't need to be partisan, and that allows us to interface with nonprofits and things in a way that, like, the LP sometimes is not able to, as a result of a lot of nonprofits having rules against backing partisan orgs. So we are on the one hand trying to rebuild the Libertarian Party, and that requires restructuring the National's relationship to, first of all, IALP, like the International Alliance of Libertarian Parties, really make this an international movement as it has always been meant to be. And then the relationship between affiliates and members and national, making that less hierarchical and more, again, more hub and spoke, more that we are transacting information, we're coordinating and cohering movements and messaging and action, and making it focused on causes as well. So there's that piece. And then through that, there is a push to mobilize the liberty movement in a more, again, coordinated, organized manner that people can be sharing resources, whether that's money, whether that's strategy, whether that's, academic or intellectual material, right? We want an intellectual arm for the movement. We have a movement journal now that we just kicked off a couple of days ago, which is wonderful. So that's us. We are trying to fill that hole, I think, in the liberty movement. And we're trying to do it through the LP, because the LP is the organization with the actual political, again, the political infrastructure in theory. And now we need to actualize that. So that's kind of a little bit of what we're doing, which means everything.
Yeah.
So
that sounds worthy. We need more. I like the decentralized idea of it more. I think, like I said, there was somebody asked in, I don't know, some social media thing, like what is the objective of the Libertarian Party? And I think that is something that is and I talked to the LNC about this as well, that everybody on the LNC has to understand what the mission is, and they have to sign off on the mission, right? And if they don't know what the mission is, or they have different ideas of what the mission is, the party is not going to move forward. If I'm running a business and I'm trying to like get to my mission, and half my team thinks that they're working on a different mission, we're going to fail, right? So like, the number one thing is everybody on the LNC, and even if they don't agree with what the mission is, if you're on the LNC, you better be on board for the mission. Like that's the deal, right? So to me, the Libertarian Party is to run candidates and win elections. That's the purpose of a political party. That's it. Period. That's it. And so, run candidates, win elections. In order to run candidates, you need money. In order to get money, you need candidates. The candidates are what raise the money, right? So if we can get this $10 million thing rolling and we can start attracting more candidates, then we'll attract more money, which will attract more candidates, and we can just keep doing the thing that we're doing. To me, the Libertarian National Party primary purpose is to maintain ballot access for the candidates, and then help the candidates by having help, which like I said earlier, we didn't have, right? So to me, like, that's it. And so the state parties, I think that the candidates are the messengers. The candidates are the ones that can get the message out. Absolutely. And that's the ones that people get excited about to give money to and all that kind of stuff. And I think, we need to have national social media and national messaging. I feel like if we can recruit worthy candidates to our cause, they will be better messengers, and people will get behind that message more when it's coming from an authentic person, as opposed to a amorphous political party, right? So
well, and the thing is that we don't see it as either or, right? Like, I mean, so for candidates, that's critical, right? And the LP really, if it ever stops running candidates, it stops being a party.
Correct.
At the same time, to get that visibility for those candidates, there needs to be that buy-in, and there needs to be that attention on the party. We see members as really those messengers, even though the candidate is the one, sometimes the platform. The chair, I think, should also be playing a role in messaging, but it should never just be one person, right? And people get stoked about candidates for good reason. But our thinking is that it's not an either or. It is that, this is a movement with a social base, right? A lot of libertarianism is grassroots. So it's getting that grassroots support, getting on the one hand, candidates into institutional power. You never, though, really get people to abdicate institutional power willingly. So it's almost a losing battle if we just have people going into political institutions like, hey, do you want to have less power? Do you want us to remove your job? There has to be a kind of social demand, right? And so we're coordinating, we're trying to coordinate it, I should say, that balance between the candidate who's doing the institutional work and then the members and the party structure that's doing that social work. And it's not that they're opposed, but they're each kind of bolstering the other. It's a little bit, holistic, symbiotic, all the rest.
It's like, we've got a data team. We've got people who are putting together where states have gone out and gotten L2 haystack data. And so we're making a warehouse of all of that data that we can poll on and we can build models from.
Is that what Dave Schreider?
Heck yeah, it is.
Yeah, of course.
There's no way you can't
There's
have
only
Dave
one
on a team like that.
Data Dave. He's awesome, and he was him and his team were not used to their full potential. And there, I mean, there's a. I went on the data calls a few times and presented a little bit, and everybody on the data team was super smart and had really good ideas, and no one really listened or utilized it, in my opinion. At least to the effect that it should have been used. Like that team is a gold mine for doing the outreach that we're talking about for those 700,000 people and finding out what they're interested in and like hitting them with coalition messaging. It's like they know that Bob in Arizona is a gun guy and smokes weed, right? So we should be hitting Bob with, we're pro gun and pro you get to smoke weed, bro. Right.
If you remember Alexa Maffey from the team, she and I are actually working.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She pretends that no one's ever heard of her and things. She's way too hard on herself.
No, she's is it Michigan? She's in Michigan, I think.
She's just outside of Chicago.
Okay, I thought maybe I don't know. Oh, maybe I did.
We're all clustered around the same spot in the Midwest.
But anyway, she's super smart, way smart, and I enjoyed talking to her. She's actually
for sure
really smart.
She and I are currently working with the LNC to do a proof of concept for how Archimedes could be run.
Okay.
And we're using the Aristotle data and we're using the haystack data and we're
awesome.
The data team built out a Nolanization score to show how far in the Nolan chart you are.
Yep.
There's not a party with a higher percentage of IT and development people and data science people out there.
And that's the other thing. That when I was at National, we had the caucus wars going on, but when I talked to IT people from all caucuses, there was some things that everybody agreed on, and that it's like IT rises above caucus in some things. And like one of the things was like efficiency. Like when I started talking about the voting system and we could have an electronic voting system, like all the IT people are like, yeah, why are we watching this? This is so stupid. We could do an IT thing together and make this fixed. And so there is broad appeal across all kind of caucus stuff to get an electronic voting thing done inside the IT segment of the Libertarian Party anyway.
Absolutely. One of the other things that we've been doing with LP Alliance is I'm gonna say co-opting.
I've said it. I just didn't know if we wanted to use it for the audience.
I
danced around it, but you can just go ahead and say it. We're co-opting movements is what we're doing. Co-opting social movements.
So we've got the No Kings stuff that's been going on, right? And so we've pointed out that the Libertarian Party is the only party of no kings. Libertarians have been the ones who are no kings since 1776. We are when they're like no kings, there's only one that's actually no kings and wants no authoritarians above. And if you look at the No Kings protests, they don't have a consistent vision out there. It's the base part is Trump bad, and then the secondary part is kind of like being this horrific to immigrants is bad. And obviously we're on board with those things, and so we've been pushing a narrative on what no kings means from a libertarian perspective, and we've been encouraging people to get out and go to those protests, hand out libertarian literature, talk to people, and get with those people and bring them into the party. Let them know that if you want to do those kinds of things and you want to be effective, there's only one party where that kind of activism is the core. Joe's correct. We are for Queens.
We might be for
Slay.
Queens. Yes.
Oh, that's a mistake.
We're for your face as well, Kyle. There we go.
Hence that's a mistake.
Awesome.
I should never be the big one.
Yeah, the idea the No Kings thing, I think it was a good idea, but the problem with it is it became very partisan, and so it's just looked at as it's instantly dismissed, right? So it's like we need to come up with something that's co-opting that is fine. The problem is that everybody who's right, even if they would be open to the message, is immediately going to be like, you're a commie.
Well, and that's the thing.
You won't even read that stuff that you put on there.
They won't be showing up though. The people who would think that we were commies. But so that was interesting. Is after the Iran airstrikes, we actually saw people from the right starting to show support in various pockets for no kings.
Yeah.
And that was kind of when we you sort of said this could really be an opportunity. We were saying it before, but it gave us more ammunition. And yet people see it as left, but really it's nothing, right? As of now, it does run a risk. I think we'd all be inclined to agree with you of being overtaken by other totalitarian movements. That's the sort of thing that, we go out, we see it, they have infrastructure, they have people, they have resources, they have money, they don't have an ideology. Okay, well, this is a great place to plant a flag.
Do you think No Kings was a was organized by rich elite left people?
I think that yes, there were absolutely there's a lot of rich elite progressive left money there, which is, I think, a reason, first of all, to go in and make sure that it doesn't get overtaken by.
How many times do you get to take Walton money and not be for Walton causes?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, they've got, so obviously there are certainly people who would be turning out for them and with them, but there's all kinds of signage there.
Yeah, it's kind of like the BLM stuff and how it started out as, as not that, and then just got completely co-opted by the left. And then it was like, no one can support this at all because it just means you're a commie.
Exactly.
Right? And so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and then what would have happened if alternate history, if libertarians had actually taken that as an opportunity to get in before that and say, yes, let's end qualified immunity. Let's end no-knock raids and use libertarian messaging, used all those people. Exactly. Because we have that in common, but then BLM completely racialized it.
Correct. I mean, it just turned into a giant grift, right? But the problem is that there was a handfuls of bad actors that were able to completely co-opt that whole thing, grift the hell out of it, and take all the important messaging out of it and turn it into we're commies.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's and it's interesting. I was in Arizona debating, and in Arizona there is a sheriff who is an anarchist.
Yes.
He's a full hardcore anarchist sheriff, and he introduced in a long, he talked for an hour or whatever, but one of the ideas that he introduced that I really liked and put in my brain is that the Democrats and the Republicans, but mostly the Democrats, are really good at basically not co-opting, but basically making moral issues where you are forced to what do you mean? You want to kill the children? What do you mean? You want to defund the poor veterans? What do you mean? You're against these innocent, marginalized people, and so you're a bad person if you take any stand against any of this kind of stuff. And it was really interesting that he was basically they're really good at tying morality to an issue. And then forcing you to look bad if you talk against that issue in any way, shape, or form, right? And I was thinking about the Libertarian Party, and that we don't really. I'm not saying that we should do that. But,
I am. We could. We easily could.
But I think that there's lessons to be learned there.
Yes.
About forcing people to behave differently because they will look like assholes if they don't behave properly, right? It's almost like social collusion or social. I don't know. Anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely. And again, we are big believers in, tactics are tactics, right? And you need to be careful, obviously, that, you don't engage in turnabout such that it alters your overall aims. But a lot of times people on the progressives and conservatives use certain tactics because they work, they're effective. And to the extent that we can engage in these tactics without compromising our overall principles, engaging them toward our principles, we absolutely should.
Yeah.
Because again, people do things because they work.
Yeah, the Democrats are really good at this. You see it in their mouthpieces, like Robert Reich, right? AOC, but
Yeah.
Robert Reich's my favorite because he's just like an ultimate mouthpiece. He couldn't like after he dies, he'll still be saying the same stuff.
He's
like
an angry elf. Yeah.
Whoever it is, he'll be saying the same stuff. But it's interesting. Like today, it's like the messaging about against the big beautiful bill, which I can't stand and is a atrocious piece of crap. But they play at the heartstrings. They're like, well, they're gonna, all these people are not gonna be on Medicaid anymore, and it's gonna put these people out of jobs, and it's gonna do this bad thing, and what about these poor people? And I'm like, the Democrats don't care about any of those people, none of them at all.
Yeah.
Because if they cared about those people, they would abolish the payroll taxes and let people keep 100% of their paycheck.
Yeah.
Like when I present that to them, they just look at me like I'm crazy. But I'm like, look, you don't have to like give these people money if you just stop taking their money.
Yeah, if they supported workers, they'd be in support of the gig economy, right?
Exactly.
And independent work and self-employment. And no, we can't do that because that ruins traditional work, and the unions need that.
Yeah.
So,
and their donors need that, right? Their donors are the union, so they got to keep the union. I mean, it's all well, so they feign that they care, right? And then they belittle the other side for not caring when they don't actually care. And it's like that right there is that hypocrisy that I was talking about, where I just never get on board with the Republicans or Democrats because it's just they just talk crap out of their mouth all the time.
It's a lesson in pain every time.
Yes, 100%.
And so I've been in the party 25 years, and I see this. After 2001, after 9/11, we saw kind of the Prague push, and that's when we saw the big change, the platform in 2004, 2006. And that's where Democrats came in, and it was bad. The Democrats get pushed out. The party starts to rise again. Kind of with the Mises stuff, we've seen kind of the right pushback. Things have gotten bad, and so we're in the process of pushing things back toward libertarianism. It's like every time we try what if we just worked with one of the big parties? It blows up in our fucking face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is what that really, when you say that, what that really means is, why don't we just merge into one of the big, why don't we just become a caucus or a whatever of the Freedom Caucus that Mike Tremont joined, right? Is an example of exactly like that. If the Libertarian Party merged with the Republican Party, it would merge into the Freedom Caucus and it would push freedom stuff. If it went into the Democrat Party,
Liberty Dems,
it'd be more about like social issues and making sure that those things are done, but also it would be, I think Libertarian Democrat is definitely more centrist because even if you believe in some sort of left ideas, you're not going to be as a libertarian like promoting massive taxation or that sort of thing. And so the other thing is like these, like I say, if we would get rid of the freaking Federal Reserve, all these people's lives would be vastly better because we just keep stealing their standard of living. One of the big Democrat talking points is that in the 1950s, everyone could buy and own a home. The American dream was easy to achieve for all people. And I'm like, well, look, in 1950, 2 out of 3 Americans worked. Today, only 1 out of 3 Americans work because the aging population and because of many other factors, right? So if you only have 1 in 3 people working, that means that those other 2/3 have to rely on more people and the resources get spread thinner. So yes. And when the Federal Reserve is turning your dollar into nothing, into dust in your pocket, how are you going to ever, get up? How are you ever going to be an asset holder? How are you ever going to be able to achieve that home? The reason it's getting farther and farther out of sight is because the value of what you can produce is being ripped away from you by the printing of crappy fiat currency. Sorry. Right. That's a rant.
No, it's very relevant. Yeah, and to Grumblings Media, to your point, that's why we don't really have a problem with. I mean, we might have a problem with parts of the RLC's ideology or messaging. We don't have a problem with people going to the RLC. That's very good. If you feel more at home in the Republican Party, but you have some libertarian ideas, go to the RLC. And then same with the Democrats. What we don't want is for people who try and make the LP into an arm of the GOP.
Correct. Correct.
And so they're doing it
Are
the
you
right
telling
way.
me you don't want to gut the LP and reshape it into something new?
I'm compelled to joke and say no. I'd like to turn it into the CPUSA, but people might take me seriously, and that's terrifying. So I'll say no. Joe thinks
it's Joe does think it's true.
He does. Joe believes in communists.
I believe in this party. I'm not happy with a bunch of things with the current LNC. I'm not currently happy with the way National's structured. I have a lot of problems with how the party's. It's been for a while.
I talked to Stephen and Paul, a few different times, and one of the things that I had mentioned to them and other people on the LNC before they came on board, that one of the things in running companies that I've had is you have a board of directors for a company, and then you have the executive team, and often they're not the same people, right? They're two different groups of people, right? And the board of directors looks at the big picture and kind of like lays the foundation of where we're supposed to go. And then the executive team executes that vision, the board's vision, right? And one of the things that I saw coming into running the campaign was that it appeared there was a lack of institutional knowledge in the Libertarian Party, or that the institutional knowledge was ineffective. And an example of that is the constant changing of the CRM. Like every new Libertarian LNC says, you know what, we got to get rid of this CRM and do a different CRM. And then the states are like, we're not being on the same CRM, and we're, all this kind of stuff, right? And then they go back, the next LNC comes in, and they're like, what we should do is we should just redo the thing that they just did, but we don't know that they just did it, so we're going to just do it again and waste all of our time. So I have proposed that we have a board of, and it's not necessarily it could be elected, but it's more like longer term than the 4-year thing. And I kind of said maybe it should be made up of past chairs or past LNC members from long, and maybe
I'm sorry.
chairs,
I'm imagining like the past 5 chairs to work together, and it's not going well in my head, but it's very entertaining. We could make money making that a reality show.
Yeah, but the idea would be that because there was recently somebody asked, is there people that have been in the party for more than 15 or 20 years that have some idea of the history of it and what's gone on and what we've tried and what we haven't tried, and that knowledge is super important. One of the guys that I think has really fantastic institutional knowledge, has developed all kinds of literature and documentation on how to run an excellent affiliate, is Indiana, right?
Evan McMahon,
and like that guy, every state chair should learn some things from that guy. And I told him, why aren't you sharing this with everybody? He said, it's available, but they have to come ask. So if you're a state chair and you want to know how to run your state better, I'm going to tell you, Indiana is one of the best states that I went to out of all the states. Alabama was really good. Texas was good. There's states that are good, but Indiana really has their shit together. And you saw it when you went to their convention. You saw how organized it was. You saw how well everything was run. You saw how they were able to get money out of people. They know how to make the ask, right? All the things that you need to do. So if you're a state chair and you're looking to level up your game, or if you're on the LNC and you want to know how to help your state chairs, go talk to Evan. He'll hate me for mentioning him, but he's good at what he does, and I think we need to use his stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's exactly what we want National to do, right? We want National to take that data and get it out to all the states.
Correct.
If Evan's willing to give it out to everybody, National should be collecting all of that data.
Correct.
Turning it into a presentation, turning it into a way for everyone to work, and getting out to everybody.
He has, he's a software kind of nerd guy, and so he has it all in not spreadsheets, but like different kinds of notes that are easily digested by people, right? Like he basically set up a system so that if he disappeared tomorrow, everybody would know how to do the deal, right?
Right.
And it's like when I've been in other organizations that like rotate secretaries every 6 months. I'm in an organization that rotates secretaries every 6 months, and
we might become that. I don't know.
And if we, and if there's a notebook that tells you how to do the things that you're supposed to do, that meeting continues to run much better than the ones that are like, "You're a new secretary, see ya." Okay, now what do I do? Oh, I reinvent the wheel, right? So like it really needs to be documented, and like what works needs to be written down, what didn't work needs to be written down, so that people can like look through it and be like, oh, we already tried this, it sucked, let's not do it again. Let's not waste our time and energy arguing about which CRM to do, because we've already tried every single one of them.
Yeah, it's I'm on the National IS committee right now, and so is Sam Bowler. And like there are definitely things that are nicer about Zoho than City, but Zoho's expensive.
Yeah, and states have no money, by the way.
And states have no money.
If LNC is broke, states are way more broke.
Yeah, it's rough
with their 12 people.
Yeah.
And so like National's kind of pulled back from getting Zoho out to all the states, where it's going to be a national only CRM. And the idea that National and the states aren't linked on CRM, to me, is just pants-shittingly stupid.
Well, so one argument that I've heard why some states didn't want to jump on that ship is because they were concerned that if they tied all their CRM to National, and National got co-opted by another group of people, they can be turned off, and they can like, unless so like owning all your data, being able to leave with your data is like critical to have the trust of the chairs of those states, because they like the top down stuff gets really like draconian right there. But I understand the reason why we want like to have a CRM that ties it all together, because data is key, and having that data and being able to use it effectively is great, right?
But like you can still do this as far as the databases go with ETLs, right? Like everything can be done from the state, and then it gets dumped into National. And if National gets additional data, they can distribute that back out to the states. Stored procedures work great for this.
Yeah. It just needs some smart IT people to fix it and stop the shenanigans. But it really it just needs to make sure that there's a way for states to walk away if they need to, right? Like that's I think the critical piece.
Yeah. It similarly, like we could shard the database. We could have a master at national level, and then we could have a shard for every state, and the states own the shard. Like these are solvable problems.
Yeah, it's not like none of this has ever been done before.
Right.
Yeah.
So it makes me really I'm a developer and an IT guy, right? So
I think that
annoying.
Well, part of it then is, and this is where sometimes being an IT guy doesn't work so well, that the piece is you have to sell this, you have to convince and sell the state chairs that it is going to work and they are protected, and you know what I mean. It becomes a sales job, which is like that's the hard part.
Yeah. So do you have any more questions for us? Do you have any more questions, Amanda? Are we?
This is an interview. I guess technically it is an interview. Usually we don't ask the guest if they have more questions for us. But that is an interesting question. So I will open that to Lars if he wants to ask us questions.
Yeah, I guess what do you guys see as the best way to get well, first, do you guys agree that the role of the party is to run candidates and win elections?
Do you want to take
Amanda's going to waffle on this, but
no, I'm not
yes.
going to waffle on it. I'm not. I think yes, that is a role of the party. So when you study that, and that's never something that can be abandoned. I think that there is a tendency that a lot of people have to jump on that rightly, because we have in recent years especially foregone that and pretended it's not as important, and maybe we can focus on other things, or maybe we can sell out our candidate, right? And that is unqualifiedly wrong. We will always need to run candidates. That will always be a critical role. When you look at the history of successful political parties in the United States, no party has ever just run candidates. I mean, what was it, like I forget what it was, the Democratic Digest or something. You always had like them putting out literature. You always had them doing media coordination and various types of messaging. So I see it as being a symbiotic relationship where we have, especially as a minor party, two roles that are complementary. One is to change politics within institutions. One is to change politics outside institutions from the grassroots. And I don't think we can abandon either of those, because I think that if we lose one, then the other one goes. So within the institutions, yeah, we need to be running candidates. We need to keep running candidates. And the way that we get support for those candidates is the grassroots stuff. We get the visibility. We support causes. We tell people what libertarianism is, because right now, when you look at political parties, our two major parties are non-ideological. Mm-hmm. They just kind of, waffle between various issues. Yes. And so people get this sense of politics is just vibes, right?
Yes.
And if we as libertarians are going out there promoting causes, politics suddenly becomes more than vibes. It becomes about a vision. And we need to be at the member level, state level, national level, showing what that vision is through activity. And that then gets that visibility that is going to propel candidates and, buoy candidates during election seasons, because otherwise earned media is a non-starter. So the answer is yes, that is the role, and it's not the only role, because if it becomes the only role, then we don't achieve that. That the causes and candidates are linked for me anyway.
Do you? I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you guys do. Do the Republicans and Democrats have a written platform like the Libertarian Party?
I think they do. Yes, they do, but they haven't updated it in a while. I think it used to be that the GOP at least would update it at convention, and then the last convention they just sort of the last one's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because in a lot of ways, I think you're right. I think that it's vibes, right? Mm-hmm. And it really is literally just my team versus your team. Like they've dropped all other, there is no need for a platform, because they're the thing is the platform, it's interesting. Like if the Republicans had a platform right now that said, we loathe increasing the debt and we'll do whatever we can to not increase the debt. Mm-hmm. Then somebody would point out to Donald Trump and team that they're about to raise the debt by $5 trillion and it's against their party platform.
Yeah.
Right? But if they have no party platform, then they don't have to be held to that thing, and it can just be vibes, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they've kind of stumbled on a way of being unprincipled.
Well, they've stumbled on many ways. They're very creative in their ways of being unprincipled. So I think we can compliment them there.
Yeah.
So I have their 10 big points up. If you want to hear them.
Okay, the 10 big points. I think, because I have been tossing around this argument that maybe having a platform, or at least as in-depth platform as we have, is a hindrance to us. Okay.
I think it's critical. And I think the way that we have it is good, right? Because we have, I think it's good and it's not. So the way it's organized is good, right? So we have the accordion. So you can click on an issue and then it drops down and gives you more depth. It used to be, and Kyle knows more about this than I do, used to be that it would give various policy points on how to get to a particular goal. And that I think was really great and in depth. It doesn't hurt us to have that platform. I think it's something unique that other parties don't have, because they are non-ideological. Minor parties have to be ideological. That is, they are the anchor that sort of holds other parties to the extent they can be held accountable, and does not have to compromise, oddly, because there are fewer minor party candidates in office. We have to compromise less, right? We can be more radical. That's an asset that we need to use.
Put that list back up real quick if you can.
Yeah, what's that say?
Yeah, no problem.
Because I want to, like, the thing is that our platform is very, very specific on very specific things, right? Number 6, protect seniors.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, is there anybody in this room that doesn't want to protect seniors?
I hate them.
You hate them.
They're useless to society.
It's yeah, it's bad, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Do you ever watch
of, by, and for the people? Does anybody want a government that's not for the people?
I would just like to be the government, quite frankly. The government of Amanda.
So like this platform is just like nonsense.
Right.
Yes.
No one's going to hold you accountable to it. Like, you didn't protect the seniors. Like, sure we did. We did blah, 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 right? Build the greatest economy in history. Libertarian Party wants to build the greatest economy in history by ending the Federal Reserve, getting rid of taxes, and letting the free market do its thing, right? Like, like defeat inflation and quickly bring down all prices. Yeah, they're not doing that.
Right.
They failed. Very number one, they failed. Right? Number one.
Yeah.
They probably are. They're probably acting on number 2 the way that their base probably is fine with the number 2, right? But I think bring back the American dream, make it affordable. Yeah, you got to get rid of the Federal Reserve. So none of those things are like what we have, which is very, very specific. And so it's hard. So they can't really be called out as candidates. No one's going to call you out as a candidate and say you didn't protect the seniors, especially if you're a candidate who's running and hasn't been elected yet.
Yeah.
You're just going to say, no, my platform is I'm protecting the seniors. Like, no one's going to argue. No one's going to say you're a bad person for that. And so I guess here's the thing. When I was running as the presidential candidate, I agree with like probably 90% of the libertarian platform. And the 10% that I might not agree with, and I would have to go look at it again. I'm like 80% of the way there with caveats or something.
Well, you're not a real libertarian.
I'm not, of course not.
Yeah.
But I've earned my badge because enough people called me not a real libertarian. And so the thing is that when you're campaigning, even if you don't talk about any of that stuff, like if you want to ignore some of those things, people will bring up those policies and say, well, you believe this, right? You believe this, or your party believes this, and you might not want to talk about that, and but you're forced to, essentially, because the party has done it. And what I think the thing is that if you're a candidate in certain states, the state is going to be full of red-leaning people or right-leaning people or left-leaning, whatever. You get the idea. And so you might not want to, like, I specifically avoided as much culture war stuff as possible during the campaign. Not because I don't have opinions on it, but because I don't think it's important. I don't think that the vast majority of the culture war issues that we argue about are ever going to be, you're not going to sway people. Like, no one's changing their mind on a lot of the culture war issues, right? And so by weighing into them, I've found that you basically get pushed into alignment with the left or the right with culture war. Because if you say you're for abortion or you're against abortion, you immediately get put into a camp. If you say you're for gun rights or against gun rights, you immediately get put into a camp. If you say you're for gay marriage or against gay marriage, you're immediately put into a camp. And so the thing is like, if we didn't have a platform, and I'm not saying, I'm just thinking out loud, if we didn't have a platform, then candidates could push the messaging that's important to them, and they could just not talk about the messaging that's not important to them. And it's like, you don't, especially as, like, say a state person running for a state house, you don't have to have a position on tons of national issues. And you saw that with this guy in New York, right? the guy in New York who just is like the mayoral candidate, the super commie guy.
Yeah.
He basically, they were asking him, well, what are you going to do about Israel? And what are you going to do about these other things? And he said, unless it pertains to people in New York City, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not my job.
And maybe this is a difference that we have, because so like having a party whose job it was just to back the candidate is how we got Trump and Harris. That the party is just sort of going to follow whatever the candidate does, the candidate's lead. And I can very easily see how we get like an RFK coming in, and then it's the party's job to back them. Having a candidate that serves as a messenger for the platform is the way, in my mind, to retain ideological integrity. And so, sure, maybe the candidate can say, it's hard, right? Because I do think a candidate needs to be adherent to the platform. There are things that I personally don't particularly agree with on the libertarian platform. Libertarian. Exactly, I'm not. But honestly, I've thought about it. If I ran as a libertarian, maybe this makes me a terrible psychopath. I would back what the platform said, unless I thought it was absolutely antithetical to liberty.
Yeah, and that was my take on it too. I just felt like sometimes I felt like boxed in, and I couldn't have any not alternative thinking, but I had to be like. What it was is it forced me to talk about issues that I didn't really wasn't championing and didn't care about that much.
Right.
Like I'm much more about economic freedom. I'm much more about fixing our criminal justice system. I'm much more about personal bodily autonomy, the right for you to do your thing. But there's some things that are just like, yeah, they're in there, but they're not like, oh my God, this is my most important number one issue. And like, I have an answer for it, but it wasn't like at the top of my list. And I felt like I had to defend this thing that wasn't even a thing, but it became a thing because it was mentioned there. Right. Like normally it would never come up in a conversation with me, but suddenly I was having to like defend this thing that maybe wasn't my main thing. So, but I totally get what you're saying is we might end up with a candidate that we'd have to back that we all hate, and be forced to do it because they're not. So I get that too. You're right.
Yeah, and I mean, like again, that's the role of pivoting, right? It's hard to say that there are things that I don't entirely agree with. Like I'm like, I'm maybe 80% there, and then I would add a qualifier. If I'm running for office as a libertarian, I see it as my job to support the party, and support the party platform, because the party is the representative. And when I say the party, I mean the members, I mean the affiliates, I mean everyone is the representative of libertarianism, of that cause. So it's my job, if I'm a candidate, and God forbid I ever become one, to represent that. But it is hard. And I think that is, like I said, the role of pivoting, that if there's something that you really don't feel like you're a good messenger on, I mean, I would probably just
definitely learn that skill.
Yeah, of course, all politicians have to.
And that was, running was a super interesting time of my life for sure. I wouldn't change it. It was a really personal growth kind of a situation, and I achieved the majority of the goals that I set out to do during the campaign, and I'm super grateful that I had that opportunity. There's only 10,000 people who have ever run for president in the United States. Yeah, in the whole of the United States. So like I feel like I got to do something very, very, very few people will ever get to do. Right. Really cool. And so I feel privileged for that, and I'm stoked that I got to do it as a libertarian, because I don't agree with either of the two other parties, and so this is the one that aligns the most with me. And so I was proud of that. Obviously I would have won, but I think like I said before, it's kind of like no matter who won of the people who we would have had.
Take it down.
Anyway, you get it.
Yes. Yeah. Just because I'll back the platform and not myself, Joe. That's all. Because the party is always right.
The party is always right.
Stay the line. Yeah.
I'm doing my best Luke Skywalker over here.
That's a fair question. What was it like sharing the stage with Randall Terry?
Oh wow. Oh.
Actually, I didn't do that. Was Chase did Randall Terry? I don't think I had Randall Terry. I had the super commie chick, who basically said she was going to take everybody's stuff and redistribute it, and that was her platform. But Chase. That was the debate. What's the free and equal debate? The free and equal debate. So So they put that on, and that Randall Terry was on there with Chase, but I didn't get to debate him. But I will say I did debate Jill Stein 2 times and Cornel West as well. And one of the things I will say about that is that, well, I might not agree with these people in their the way that they want to achieve their political goals. I think that both of those people were authentic people that cared about the American people, that wanted to deliver good stuff for the American people. They just wanted to go about it in a way that I didn't think was the right way to go about it. But I had respect for those people. I just saw Cornel West again at Freedom Fest. Yeah. And I like that guy. He's cool. Like he's cool. I mean, but like his politics, I don't believe any of it, right? But I do think that he is a loving, caring, kind person that wants the best for the people and that's why he's running and doing his thing. So I can respect people for that. And I think that a lot of politicians I run into are not that. They're not authentic. They're total grifters. They're those people that are like, I love that my party's rigging the system and screwing you, and that's great, right? And it's like, and I will say that meeting Thomas Massey and having like literally a 2-hour conversation with him, I was very surprised at how authentic he was. That he seemed to really like care about the stuff that he was talking about, and he didn't appear to be in it for the money or the power or any of that kind of stuff. And so I had respect for that piece of it.
Right.
So how did it feel to absolutely destroy Jill Stein on nuclear energy?
The thing is she she's a peace hippie from the 60s, right? And so the peace hippies from the 60s, their whole thing was to go chain themselves up in front of the nuclear power plant and stop the evil nuclear power plant from destroying the planet or whatever. And so she's still stuck in the 1990s. We're in 2025. The technology is, it's like saying I fear the dial-up telephone, and we're all walking around with smartphones, right? Yeah. Like it's not the same game. There's all kinds of new technology, and it is interesting that one of my platform pieces was energy race, and was to just like basically try to reduce the cost of energy dramatically by getting rid of regulations, abolishing the NRC, getting FERC out of the way, and all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting that Trump has embraced a lot of that, and you see a lot of but a big part of it is super interesting. When we were doing the policy work on the energy policy, what we found was the reason that a lot of new plants weren't being built, besides the ridiculous regulatory situation, was there wasn't a financial incentive to do it, that the cost was so much that getting a profit on it was minimal, and so there wasn't a lot of people doing it. But along comes AI, and we have this giant need for massive amounts of new energy, and suddenly Google and Microsoft and Meta and Nvidia are all super excited, and Tesla are all super excited to build a whole bunch of new power infrastructure, and suddenly there's a lot of money behind it, and it can be done. So I'm super excited and happy about that, and I'm looking forward and heavily invested in a lot of nuclear energy stocks because
That's
I
awesome.
think it's going to be kicking ass here.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of a kiss ass, but I like it. Why are you such a cool guy, Lars?
Never asked us that.
Wow.
Huh.
I'm just going to be super humble right now and tell you about how cool I am.
Please do. Please do.
Is this the part where the road racing comes out?
Yeah, I just did that actually. I do race cars for people that don't know, and I was I raced my Jaguar 2 weeks ago, and then I raced my Porsche Cup car this last weekend, and had an excellent time doing all that. And I'm looking forward to going to be racing again in August, and then I'm shipping my car from California to Connecticut, and I'm going to be racing in Lime Rock the next weekend.
Nice.
So it's
Awesome.
I finally achieved the full jet setter race car. I don't know. Cool dude.
That's awesome.
The cool dude somehow.
My the favorite car I've ever owned was a C5 Corvette that I ripped all the way down to the frame in that car, a hybrid frame, and built completely exactly as I wanted it.
Nice.
So, it's a C5 with freaking 17-pound rims, running Cup 2s, but it looks stock from the outside unless you're noticing these little bitty changes, right?
The sleep.
Yeah.
I like it.
With over 500 wheel horsepower. So you'd pull up, and someone in a Ferrari would pull up beside you, and
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh, come on, bud, I'll play. That's I've been into cars forever. We're actually gonna have Jim Cantrell on soon too.
Yep. He's a good car guy. I do.
Yep.
I have occasionally. I haven't raced against him, but we're at the same events quite a bit. So
Cool.
Yeah. He also has a Porsche Cup car. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
You gonna move over to a Singer at some point?
A Singer? No. I actually just bought a Tesla Plaid.
Nice.
Why not have 1,000 horsepower?
S or X?
It's the S Plaid. S Plaid.
Cool.
And I have a Porsche Turbo, or not a Porsche Turbo. I have a 911 that is my regular driver, but I think I'm going to get rid of that because 1,000 horsepower. Mostly, I bought the Tesla actually not for any of that, but I have been saying for the last 10 years that when full self-driving comes out, I'm definitely getting a car that's going to drive me around. And there's only one car currently that can do that, and that's the Tesla. So anyway, venture capital. So, I sold my company in 2007, got stupid amounts of money, and decided that I should get into angel investing. And so I was doing a bunch of angel investing, and in that time there wasn't a lot of internet angel investing. It was still you had to go to a physical location and people would do their pitches and then you'd give them money or whatever. And I did a bunch of that, and it was I was really unsuccessul at it. And I lost my money over and over and over again. This is a cool project. These guys are going to do something cool. Just fail. Okay. And so what I realized was to be a good angel investor, you needed probably a minimum of $50 million, because you were going to want to put in maybe you need to be able to put in $10 million. You need to be able to do $100,000 deals. Right. Because 90 of them are going to fail, and 9 of them are going to do pretty good. And one of them is going to make up for the other 90 that failed, basically. And so I was like, okay, angel investing is not for me. And I kind of gave up on that for a while. And in the last 5 or 6 years, 7 years, there is rules changed. A lot of rules changed. And the venture capital market shifted from being a total exclusive old boys club to a lot more people can get in. And essentially these secondary share markets started opening up for late stage companies that were going to go public in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, and the employees needed some liquidity. And so they started being able to sell their shares pre-IPO. And I ended up buying into, Alibaba and and SoFi and just a bunch of them, Joby, a whole bunch of companies, and they all went public, and I made 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 times my money, and
Nice.
it felt like it felt really good because it was like within a couple of years I was getting my money back, more money. And I could talk about these cool companies that I somehow magically got to be involved in before other people got to be involved in it. And so it gave me that. And it was like, oh, now I've got more money. I can go reinvest it in the next thing. And so it's not going to ever be one where you get a 10,000x like an Uber or a Facebook where you just get in super early. But those deals, you only get into that is an old boys network, and you're not getting those deals unless you're Andreessen Horowitz, unless you're like one of the top dogs. You basically get the leftovers, and so you're never going to get into those deals anyway, and you're going to be picking from the bottom of the barrel. So this new kind of thing where they have these secondary share markets, they have literally stock coming available in different companies like every day. So I invested a pile into SpaceX in 2020. I invested a bunch into XAI and a bunch into X, Anthropic, a bunch of robot companies that Figure AI I'm in, on and on and on. And so I'm just really looking mostly for things that I understand, as far as how do I make my decision making. It's things that I understand. Do they have a really big market? Can they expand really, really, really big? And I tend to like things that are technology because that's what I understand, and I can I can value it. So like when it's like biotech and stuff like that, I think the ideas are really good, but it's really hard for me to understand, like, is that going to be a winner or not? And but I think AI is about to light the biotech and the medical field just completely on fire. Things are going to be popping off there like it's never popped off before, and the wins are going to be a lot better, I think. I don't know. That was a weird diatribe on venture capital.
No, it's Phil had asked at the beginning, and I didn't bring it up then, and he asked again, so it was the right time to bring it up.
Yeah.
It's Phil's actually a graduating PhD student,
Okay.
with pretty neat chem work done. So
Nice.
It's really cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of funny. Like Amanda's a PhD student. I'm a PhD dropout, and Phil's a PhD student. So there's a whole bunch of people who liked being in school too much behind LPA.
Well, I mean,
I'm the opposite of that. I'm literally a high school dropout.
Wow.
And I got 2 years of college, and I got dumped into the internet at the right place at the right time, and that was my education, which I think was probably better than, there was a lot of people that are way smarter than me that worked for me, and I'm grateful for them because I needed their smarts, right? Like, but I think success isn't necessarily about being smart. You need a bunch of pieces. Like my brothers are smarter than me, but they're not as ambitious as I am. So you have to have ambition. You have to have a little bit of marketing. You have to be able to like market yourself, because I knew really smart people that couldn't like leave behind the computer, but they would run circles around you if you had an actual conversation with them, right? So yes. It's not, success isn't just about being smart. You also need street smarts, like some intuition is key. Somebody was asking about go along QQQ. I've been day trading TQQQ. Cryptocurrency. So I've been in crypto since 2017-ish. And I've held meme coins, shit coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, like you name it, I've held it. Doge, I've held it all. Currently, I'm pretty much I got totally centralized with my decentralized currency. Nice. People hate this, but it's like you can just buy and sell crypto through stock market, basically
Mm-hmm,
through
mm-hmm.
ETFs at this point, right? And
Mhm.
Yep.
there's no chance. Like I get the reasons why you want to have cold storage and why you want to have decentralized currency for, you know, keeping it out of the government control and having your own keys and all that kind of stuff. I've just seen so many people like lose their keys, have their stuff. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have come to me and be like, bro, I had some Bitcoin on this wallet, do you know how to get it? And I'm like, what like, you know. And so I literally have several friends that have, you know, probably $200,000 or $300,000 worth of Bitcoin in a wallet that they can't access.
Oh my gosh.
And so, and also like fraud and theft, right? People steal your shit. If they steal your ETF, you get to sue your brokerage account and they give you your money back. so, but I like it. I think crypto is good. I want to see it continue to grow. I think that we're going to see it. One of the big things I think we're going to see is tokenization of all assets. I think that's coming. I wish that one thing I'm a little disappointed about in crypto is that after this is, you know, I've been in it like 8 years or so. I felt like there was going to be a lot more utility at this point. Like there was going to be a lot more things being done with it. And it feels like a lot of it is just marketing hype and not actual utility. And the best utility that's come out so far is like creating more shit coins. like here's a platform to create more shit coins, right? But no, I mean there are good utilities out there, and there is good projects. But I think at this point, one of the things too is if you watch the top, the coin market cap, and you watch the top 100 coins over the last 8 years. I actually did a Bitcoin fork, and I was in the top 50 for a hot minute.
That's pretty cool.
But that failed, and but it was cool. It was fun. I was in the top. I was like, "There's my coin in the top 50. Awesome!" But I realized like a lot of the coins I invested in 8 years ago aren't even on that list anymore. You know what I mean? And like new ones have come and old ones have gone, and I kind of like, I wouldn't say I'm a Bitcoin maxi person, but even like Ethereum right now is trading at half of its all-time high, whereas Bitcoin is at its all-time high. So I'm either, and by the way, I have a bunch of Ethereum right now. Either Ethereum is going to like take off and get back to its all-time high and double from here, or it's done.
Well, and a lot of the coins that like the smaller altcoins, you know, rely on Ethereum. So
Right.
if Ethereum doesn't do very well, then the smaller coins are also
well, and Solana, right? Solana is
yeah.
the other one that everybody's. So listen, now that we can all vibe code, I don't know if you guys have. I'm not a coder, but man, I love coding on Claude, and I've built an amazing Twitter bot that is like smashing on Twitter right now.
Awesome.
And it's really fun. And I just literally just was talking to Claude, and I was like, "Hey, I think I want to do this thing," and it's like, "Cool, you want me to write it?" And I'm like, I was laying in bed, I'm like, "Sure." And then it's like, "Okay, run it." And I'm like, "Well, I have to go to my PC, put my pants on." And I went down, plugged it in, and it worked. And I'm like, "Holy shit!" So now that we can vibe code, I was thinking about vibe coding a Solana token.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. So maybe you'll see. Maybe I'll have a Solana token out pretty soon.
Could vibe code the voting token for the LP, Kyle. That'd be awesome. Yeah. We are coming out. So Restream cut. Well, they don't. Restream doesn't cut us off at 3 hours, but they Restream is not as happy about generating clips at around 3 hours. So we still have time. But we are. I think we're around 2:20.
Okay. Yeah, I got about 20 more minutes. Is good.
Yeah.
I mean,
sounds good.
Maybe we'll take some questions from the.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Questions from Gen Pop.
I'm looking through. There's someone wanted to know a little while back what year one of your cars was. I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, the Jag.
Yeah, the Jag.
1952.
Gotcha.
So it's a XK 120 convertible, and it's basically not. It's totally stock-ish. I mean, it's drum brakes. It doesn't stop. It doesn't turn. You basically have to drift it all the way around the track. It's the hardest car I've ever driven. It is absolutely wickedly fun. Because you feel like you basically do this the entire time, just trying to keep it on the track with the, because it's just sliding all over the track all the time. And it's got these skinny little tires. It's great.
Nice.
Makes great noises.
Phil has a question I'll try to decipher. What mistakes have you made that you've learned from, like so some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from mistakes that you've made? It's a happy question, Phil. Lighthearted.
I think, you know what, I'll just say, like, as far as the presidential campaign, there was some mistakes made. The number one mistake was that I was naive. You know, I came into the Libertarian Party expecting it to, like I said, really be helpful to me. I also thought that the party of principle would be super principled, because they call themselves the party of principle, but I found it not to be the case.
Yeah.
But not surprised. I think, you know, part of the naivety was that I thought, I'm going to go into the Libertarian Party and they're going to be different than the Democrats and the Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
No, not only that, but my take on it, and you know, people can argue whether this take is legit or not, but I really felt like the Libertarian Party is just literally made up of Democrats and Republicans, majority, like 80% of the people in the Libertarian Party are Democrats and Republicans that are pissed off at the Democrat and Republican Party and came over to the Libertarian Party.
Would you like to know something terrifying?
Okay.
There has repeatedly been a bylaw proposed that you must not be a member of another party to be in the Libertarian Party. Not that you can't, like, vote that way, etc.
Yeah.
But you cannot actively be part of another party if that's an option.
Yeah. Isn't that already in the bylaws? Because I thought, like,
no,
there's
it
something
keeps getting shot down.
You can't, like, if you hold a position in another party, you can't be a member of the Libertarian Party. Is that in
you can't like be part of the XCOM of another party?
Correct.
But you can absolutely just be a registered Democrat who's voting and everything else and be shaping the Libertarian Party, which is what the Prags were hardcore against, the idea that you couldn't be a Democrat and be a Libertarian. And then Mises shot down the idea again in 2022 and 2024 that you couldn't be a Republican and be in the Libertarian Party. So, like, Libertarians, including those in power, agree with you that we are Democrats and Republicans to some degree.
Yeah. I don't like that. The Libertarian in me, like if you told me, like, Lars, I'm also a member of the Republican Party, and somebody else said I'm a member of the Democrat Party, but I'm also a member of the Libertarian Party. I feel like, who am I to say that you can't do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think that if you're on our XCOM, you have to have drank.
Yes, I think that's true. I think if you're going to be the leadership of the party, you better be damn principled, right? Like that. I agree with that. You can't be you can't be in the Republican Party, especially in a leadership position, and be on the board of the LNC. That would be atrocious. Like, I agree with that. But a regular member, because it's kind of like, it's a slippery slope. Do you then say you can't donate to any Republican candidates? Because if you donate to a Republican candidate, that disqualifies you as a libertarian, right?
I'm fine with it. You being in the Libertarian Party. I don't think you should be able to be a delegate to national, for instance.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be able to be on national leadership, etc.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that there's I think that seems reasonable. Like, if you're gonna step up and run for that position, like, it's not like you're forced to be on the LNC, right? So if you're going to step up and run for that position, I think it's reasonable to ask you to drop all other affiliations, because your sole purpose and goal is to be working for the LNC and not working for one of the other parties. Somebody did that. I don't know who.
Possibly.
Yeah. It. I know I had a list of questions. Let me make sure that I
was trying to
all
find
of
that
those.
earlier and I couldn't find it. I didn't know if that was in comms or whether that was in. Now we are mining through Discord trying to figure out what's happening. Which is fantastic.
I know Chase had one question in there somewhere. It was.
It's as always, Chase has a standing thing if he wants to come up. So I'm just going to send Chase a link in case he wants to come talk too.
I'm just afraid of if we send Chase a link, we're on for. Chase is really great at holding an audience, and so although it's no skin off my nose if we get more people and Chase delivering his address.
Bitcoin futures.
Yes.
Nice. Joe's in the Bitcoin futures. He is a serious volatility junkie if he's doing Bitcoin futures. Nice.
Joe, we do not need a comms director, first of all, because we don't have directors, but secondly, because we are basically all comms directors at this point.
No. He means communications, not communists.
I'm aware. I am aware of this. Lars doesn't know the running. So now Lars is actually going to think that I'm a communist.
Let's see,
running war.
Everybody's a communist.
It's pretty much true. Everyone who's not an anarchist.
Here is our background that we use for our other.
That was not my choice,
show.
though. That was one of our comms directors who made that choice.
Our communist directors, yes, I know.
Will you run for office, Lars, in California, and will you run for president again?
I will not be running for president again unless like something really crazy happens. I feel like I did what I achieved the goals that I wanted to achieve, and I feel like running again would be a little bit just like spinning my wheels, and that I could be more effective in doing the things that I'm working on. Will I run in California? I mean, there's a possibility that would occur. I mean, I for sure will run as a paper candidate at some point, just so that we have a ballot line, because I feel like one of the things that I would really like to see is when you get your ballot, if you get your ballot and there's 20 L's on the ballot in every single race, it's much more likely somebody's going to be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
If you see one L on the ballot, you're like, whatever, it's easy to avoid it. Right. But if you just keep seeing it over and over and over again. So I would like to see a lot of people running in all states, but some states it's hard to like get on. Like in California, we have a lot of people in California. We have a big, group of people in the party, but there's not a lot of people running. And I think a little bit of that has to do with getting on the ballot. I'm not 100% sure, but people have asked me to run for governor, and I would do that as a paper candidate. But I'm not going to burn another $1 million to the ground on that. It's just.
Well, I think you already explained to us that you have to get good at a thing, and so like angel investing, you got good at.
Yeah,
it's time to learn how to.
Yeah, I definitely learned how to do this thing. That is for sure. I definitely would. It'd be a lot easier to go into it and do it again. A big piece of it is that my wife is like, that's not happening anymore. It's like we're done with that. And so but also just I would really have to. Like, interestingly, I thought, man, what if there was a state that I could move to that would be like, I would never win anything in California. It's a full Democrat state. If you say you like guns at all, you're done. You're not winning. But what if I moved to a state that was super easy to win, that had a lot less people, that then you only had to get 20,000 votes to become a congressman or something? Like, I don't know that exists, but let's say that there's a state where you don't need a lot, right? And you could, and then you did all the information and you figured out exactly where to move to. I think that they did that. The LP did that in one state and won with somebody. I can't remember who it was, but that's something interesting. And who knows? I'm 55. Apparently these guys run till they're like 342 years
Seriously, yeah.
old. So I got some time.
That's why I love politics. Like, you're young forever. Like, Joe Biden would call you kid. I mean, is Kamala Harris like 59? He called her kid. I'm like, wow, I got some time.
Yeah, he said I could win a county or a city office. I could, but it's like, to me, that's the same as being on the LNC. It would just drive me absolutely insane. Like, right. I listen to my local, board of directors and my local city council meetings, and like, I would not have the patience for that crap. Like, the people, like, they have open mic and people come up and just start talking, and I'm just like, why are your gums flapping? I don't want to hear any of that anymore at all, period. And so, like, and they're like really nice and they're listening to it and they're all like, they don't get all upset, and I'd be yelling at people. I would be kicked out of any public office that I had that was like local, because I just wouldn't put up with the crap. Like, if you're president, you have like a team of people and you're kind of like sheltered from all that. You don't have to deal with any of that.
Right.
But as a local thing, man, it's just like, no, I don't. Plus, I don't feel like, yes, I could change some things. Like, I absolutely loathe my city planning and my and the planning department in my county, and the like, all the bureaucracy in my county. Oh my God, I hate them all so much. Like, I can't even begin to tell you. Like, they are the reason I'm a libertarian. But like, going in and trying to fight the good fight on that, and like getting them out or cutting their budget or all that kind of stuff, it's like, I don't know that I would feel like super rewarded like when I got done with that. And the other thing is interesting is that, like, I actually fear those people.
Yeah.
Like I do. Like, I don't want to like stir the shit in town, because I'm afraid they'll come and like red tag my house, or like they'll find some reason. Like, I often say, like, local government, the federal government bombs you from 40,000 feet, but local government points a gun right at your face, and it's very personal, right? It's like, really, I'll tell you, like, in the campaign, I had a tree fall on my garage and cut my garage in half.
Oh my gosh.
Smashed one of my favorite cars. And I was in the middle of travel. It was horrible. So I built this garage like 10 years ago, and the plans were all done 10 years ago. Everything was good. And so I wanted to rebuild it exactly the same. An insurance company is going to pay for the thing and all that kind of stuff. And it took 1 year and 1 month to get the permit to build the building. Then it took them 90 days to build the building. I propose that no permit should be more than the time it takes to build the building.
Yeah.
Then I get to the very end and they're like, hey, Lars, so looks like you didn't finalize the permit the last time, and so they need some paperwork from you. Okay, well, what is it? Well, Lars, and by the way, this garage is on the top of a mountain. Okay, I'm at like 600 feet or something like that above the ocean. I can see the ocean up there. Well, Lars, you didn't finalize your flood plan. What the fuck? What?
I mean, that water can get pretty high. You never know. You never know. Those cliffs can only cover so much.
If I am underwater, you're all fucking dead. Okay. Okay. So like, you won't be able to come with your bureaucratic and kick my ass, because you'll be dead, because you'll be drowned. Okay. So like, we don't need that piece of paper. So then they're like, you got to fill out this form, and you got to get it notarized, and you got to put in all these stuff. And so like, it takes me weeks to find all the stuff that they require. And then I send the guy goes down there, and they need a plan that shows what the runoff and all this kind of stuff. So he goes down there, and he's like, yeah, I went there, and the lady's on vacation. I'm like, cool. Well, we'll just get somebody else to sign off on it. Yes, she's the only one in the county that can sign off on it. So then he goes back the next week, and he's like, yeah, she extended her vacation. And I'm like, can you imagine one person has like the full gatekeeping of your entire project, and what if they die? Then you're what? Then what are you supposed to do?
We've had issues similar to that in LPA Alliance.
So anyway, I could tell you 20 stories like that of the county that I live in and how completely jackass these people are, and how it's the bureaucratic state. And, oh my God, I hate them.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't get me
started. I used to live in California. I used to live in Los Angeles.
It hurts my soul.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah, that's a difficult place to live. It's used to be fantastic, and then COVID made everything weird. So yeah. Why did I get blurry? There we go.
Your camera decided it didn't like focus.
the camera is regulated by Gavin with the good hair, near Southern California.
Goodness. So are we going to see you in Santanella?
Yes, 100%. I'm there.
Excellent.
I have my room booked, and I had one guy that like decided you all nerds were cool enough to hang out with again. Like all my other friends were like, we're never doing that shit again. Don't ever drag us to the libertarian anything, bro. My wife said that she was traumatized at the last LNC or the last California convention, and that she never wanted to participate in anything ever again. Libertarian. Like she was like, I can't believe how toxic these people are. I just don't want to ever, So, but my one buddy, I guess he's a sadist or something. So he's ready. He's signed up to come and get punished again at the California. I don't know.
Lars. That's
have you guys been to that hotel before?
No, but I actually we're going to be there on behalf of LPCA.
Okay.
LPA will be covering the convention and doing the live stream.
So I'm also a speaker there. So I'm gonna
nice.
Yeah, I'll be speaking with Nikayla, me, and Spike or Larry or something. I don't know. Anyway,
Angela's supposed to be there.
We'll be there doing our thing. But the hotel is freaking awesome. Chris has a collection of early American art.
Oh wow!
So like think Wild West. So he has these like 30-foot paintings of Yosemite with teepees and stuff in the valley. They're amazingly cool. If you're into that kind of thing. The hotel is pretty cool, but it is like in the middle of nowhere, right? It's like
yeah.
The plan is to fly into San Jose and then drive over.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what you get to do. So.
But yeah, it's so if you get some time at LPCA, we'll have a hot seat if you want to come hang out with us. And
okay, absolutely, let's do it. Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah. All right, well, I think that's it. Unless you guys got something more.
No, you had given us till 10:30 on your last thing, and it's 10:30 Eastern, and it's now 10:35. So you've already gone 5 over your extended time.
No, I appreciate it. We got to talk about a lot of different topics, and hopefully, you got quite a crowd here, which is pretty awesome.
We get cool people, and then the rewatches are always great too. So we got good people watch.
Yeah, so I like that. So I appreciate you guys having me on to just kind of rant and think. The thing is like the more you talk about all these ideas, the clearer the stuff becomes in your head of what the correct action is. It's like I've been talking nonstop about AI and the changes. Like it's the only thing I really love, and we don't really talk about much, but it's the most important and big issue. It's the biggest issue right now in my mind. It's the biggest issue right now in everything America. I'm looking at 50 million people over the next 2 to 3 years are going to lose their jobs. And I think that's going to cause a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unrest. And I'm thinking we're going to have a lot of rioting in cities. And you'll know whether I'm correct or not if you start seeing big riots in Chicago and Detroit and Philadelphia or whatever. But I think after we get through that time of uncertainty, we're going to move into a period of abundance in the likes of which America's never seen before. That it's going to make the Industrial Revolution GDP growth look insane. Before the Industrial Revolution, there was something like 2% GDP growth worldwide. And then when the Industrial Revolution hit, we got to something like 8 to 10% GDP growth. And we're going to have way bigger than that. And so I think that a lot of the problems that we face in society are going to disappear due to AI, but it's going to also require everybody to rethink their position in society. When we all get together, we often will say, well, what do you do for work? And we kind of like judge you based on what you do for work. We kind of put you in a bucket or a box, right? And like, that's what you ask when you're at a party. Well, what do you do for work? And then you talk about that, right? But if no one's working, I was recently at I went to Necker Island with Richard Branson, and on Necker Island, these two guys asked a question on a scale of 1 to 10. How well do you know what your purpose is? And I hate that question. Because all my life, my purpose has been like grow companies, get a nice house, have my wife, have my kids, provide for my family. Like that's been my purpose. But like a lot of those things, I'm older now. My kids are grown up. My businesses are done. Like, what is your purpose, right? So I spent probably 2 or 3 months, like really kind of figuring out what my purpose is. And I think that that's going to be a critical piece for a lot of people, that they're going to need to figure out what their purpose is, because right now a lot of people's purpose is their job. And if no one's working, what's the point of you?
It's Amanda and I have actually had this conversation for an absurd number of hours.
Well, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one thinking about it.
What the specialness of humans is, what the future looks like, what our importance is, if AI can ever be human, all kinds of stuff. It's this is, especially when you look forward to like the singularity, right? When you think about the idea of AI growing itself and everything else.
Yes, which is not far off, by the way.
In the 1950s, they estimated to be in the 2050s, and that is still the estimate, which I think is wild.
Well, I mean, it's AI right now is doubling every 5 months. Right. And when I tell people like this is the future, they're like, Lars, it hallucinates and it does this, and I'm like, yeah, 5
Me
months
too.
ago. I'm like, it's like so much less than it was, and it's just getting so much better. Like the VO3 stuff that came out, like you just look at that and you're like, wait, what? Like, I realized that with enough compute, you can have a full on-demand video avatar of anything you want. We can put a video avatar right here, and they can be in this conversation with us,
right?
The same as we are here, and it's going to be so good that you won't know that they're not AI, and that's not far from now. That's like 1 to 2 generations. That's like 10 months from now, or a year and a half, or whatever, right? And with all the autonomous robots that are coming, like this year, like in less than a year, there's going to be 5,000 Optimus robots, and like it's wild. And so we need to be prepared for this. We need, it's and I think I asked a few different Congress people, like, what are you guys on Capitol Hill? What are you guys doing about this? And the guy said, oh, there's one guy that's talking about it. He keeps talking about how we're going to have UBI for everybody. He's a Democrat. And I'm like, well, what are you guys talking about? Like all the job losses and like what we're going to do? And like, no, there's no plan. So they're clueless. But I mean,
are you telling me government's reactionary?
Not surprising at all. Is it? Not surprising at all. It's like right now in my town, we just got done fixing all the roads because they wanted to put in all these bus lanes because we need lots and lots of mass transit. But currently our mass transit is subsidized 85%. Every ride is subsidized 85%. So the cost of the ride is $3, but the actual cost of the ride is $24. And I pointed out to them that you could actually get everybody that rides the bus an Uber for less than we're paying to have all the buses.
Yep.
And then I said, when there's an autonomous car, and it could be a van that could pick up 4 or 5 people,
Yeah.
like cut that cost in half, and the taxpayer would save 50% of their money, and the people would still get the ride right to where they're going, right? And it's like they're still thinking about the future of buses when they should be thinking about the future of autonomous vehicles that's already here. But they're spending millions of dollars on crap that isn't even going to exist in 5 years.
But these are the people that are like, can Google see me right now holding up a phone? Like, it's
so anyway, so I wrote this whole thing and posted it about how we should get rid of our metro and move to it didn't go well. People didn't like that. They're like, well, what about the metro people's jobs? And I'm like, as the taxpayer, it's not my problem. Not my problem. It's not my. I didn't sign up and be like, when I was born, they're like, Lars, when you get to work, just remember that you're working for the metro people.
The poor starving landlord.
I'm not good. That's too long of a story. Anyway.
But yeah, it sounds like I should bother you sometime about AI. I would enjoy this conversation.
I love talking about it. I can go deep dive in it for sure.
I'm actually doing a job swap right now, and the one that's asking me for it is an AI engineer. So that's where my next role will probably be.
Nice. Yeah, I think the place where the most job losses are going to be is middle management.
Good.
The other thing is like
that's where no work is being done anyway.
Correct. They have meetings to have meetings, so that's important. I've always hated middle management, so I'm happy to see them disappear. But I had another. I lost it because I was so busy thinking about that. Yeah. Anyway.
But we super appreciate you being on.
Yep. Thanks.
And we will see you in California.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.